Perfect. We're recording the session. So, why are all of you here? We're here in the boot camp, right? So, what is the sort of objective of this boot camp that we're here for? So, the primary objective for all of you out here right now is to pick up skills that are foundational for your project success. That is, if you sort of pick up these skills, you'll be able to run your 3-month coding period a lot smoother, and you'll be able to ensure that you have the right skill set to tackle anything that comes your way. So a certain, like, the list of sort of skills that we'll be going through in this bootcamp are how to plan your coding period, the correct mindset you need to have for programming, coding best practices. So stuff like how to comment in your code, how to name your functions, stuff like that, system design, and what are your roles and responsibilities as a contributor. So now we've understood what the goal of this bootcamp is. Let's try to understand how to get the most out of this bootcamp. All of you out here, and we sort of covered key. This is what we want out of the bootcamp. But what are some hygiene rules we need to follow to ensure that happens? So our first request would be to keep your cameras on. The reason for this is pretty simple. Normally, when you keep your cameras on, you end up being a lot more present. You end up listening a lot better, and it's also a lot more heartwarming for the person who's sort of speaking, because they feel like they're speaking to a full room. Virtual meetings take out a little bit of that interpersonal connection that happens in, let's say, a classroom. Out here, if you have your cameras on, maybe that interpersonal connection can be recreated. Second is keep your mics on mute when someone else is speaking. So a lot of the times when you get background noise when your mics are on, it not only distracts the speaker, but also distracts everyone else who's part of this bootcamp. Third is raise your hands to ask a question. So we are very open to questions. The point of this bootcamp is so that you learn as much as possible. So if you want to ask a question at any point, just raise your hand and you can ask a question. And the fourth is that you have full ownership of your learning journey right now. This is not college, this is not school. We're going to treat you as young professionals. So you have full ownership of your learning journey. So we'd suggest being completely mentally present for this bootcamp, because again, after this bootcamp, you will be a lot more equipped to handle these 3 months that are coming your way. So any questions up till now? Perfect. Then let's sort of look at the agenda for today. So our first session that's starting in another few minutes is understanding system design. Post that, we'll have a brief sort of understanding of what C4GT and DMP even are. After that, we'll detail your roles and responsibilities as a contributor. That is what is expected out of you, and also the terms and conditions of your engagement. And after that, we'll have a short break. For some people, this might be the best part of the day. And then we'll have a 1-hour session on programming mindset. So you'll understand how to problem solve, how to sort of tackle parts of code that you wouldn't know how to do otherwise, stuff like that. And finally, we'll just have a quick 15-minute takeaway session where we'll share our takeaways and also flash the agenda for day 2. So any questions up till now? Anything you want to get clarified? Yeah, Vamshi, you were saying something? Cool. Perfect. Then let's just wait for a couple of minutes. We have our first session. So we have Rahul Kulkarni heading that session. Let's just wait for Rahul to join, and then we can start that session.
Yeah, in the meanwhile, if you all have any suggestions on what more should be covered during these 2 days, and of course we'll keep on doing regular learning sessions throughout the next 3 months. So every 2 weeks we'll have some external speaker or the other coming in and focusing on a specific topic. So would love to hear from you all. What is it that you are looking forward to, that you want to learn from this industry specifically, or it can be anything actually in the tech world. So if you can just take out some time and put in your suggestions on the chat in the meanwhile Rahul joins, that'll be great. You can also unmute and, share your suggestions. That's perfectly fine.
Hi. Actually, I'm very much interested in generative AI. So, can you
Okay.
please provide some of the suggestions that we should move forward to in order to get into Gen AI or especially machine learning stuff?
Okay.
Heard.
We
So
can
you
do
want a
that.
session on generative AI? Can be arranged. We'll look at who we can sort of call who's a specialist in Gen AI over the next 3 months for a session.
Suchita is saying that can we have a session on GitHub? So Suchita, we do have a refresher tomorrow on GitHub basics. But we are assuming that you're aware of the basics. So we'll share some resources with you that you can refer to get yourself up to speed on those basics. And we'll also share the videos, right? Abhimanyu, we have
Yeah,
shared
yeah. The
the
videos have
videos.
been shared.
Huh. So
Over
you can
email.
also go through the videos from last year's bootcamp that was done. So that is also covered the GitHub basics there.
Okay, all right, ma'am. Thank you.
How many of you are like comfortable with GitHub, like on a scale of 10? How many of you think you are above 8 on GitHub? Just want to see the hands being raised. Okay.
Okay,
But
that's what.
50% of you are, comfortable with GitHub is what we are seeing here.
Perfect. Okay, guys. We have Rahul. Rahul has joined us. So let's dive into this next session. So to lead this next session on system design, Rahul Kulkarni is going to sort of take us through it. He's the chief technologist at Samagra, where he leads digital transformation across state governments in India. He has been instrumental to the successful projects like Antodaya Saral for government to citizen service delivery in Haryana, Saksham Haryana for education transformation in Haryana, Kalia for direct income transfer for farmers, and Adapt decision support system in Odisha, and foundational literacy and numeracy up-leveling for 12 million primary children in Uttar Pradesh. Rahul has also spent 6 years at Google, starting out as Google's first product manager in India in 2006 and helping build several of Google's key products and businesses, such as Google Finance, Orkut, Open Social, Google Apps Platform, Google Cloud Platform, and something that all of you may use on a daily basis, Google India Maps. He holds 9 patents, is a TEDx speaker, a fellow at iSpirit, and serves on various expert technical committees. Over to you, Rahul.
Thank you so much, Abhimanyu. Welcome all. Welcome and congratulations on being here. What I want to do in the next half an hour now, give you a perspective on systems design. Now, this is something that very surprisingly enough is not a course in any computer science course generally. In 4 years, you don't learn system design. And that is one of the interviews that you have if you go to any product company. So if you look at a typical product company, you would go to a Google, Microsoft, Amazon, others. The first interview, of course, is data structure algorithms, which you prepare for a lot, right, for 4 years. But then the second interview is system design, and a lot of folks just get out there. So what is system design? How do you look at a system? And the reason why this is so important, there is a reason why the Googles, Amazons, and Microsofts ask those system design interview questions. Why? Because it is the same thing that we are also facing when it comes to GovTech. So when you look at a Google system, what is common between a system at a Google and common between system running in India and in GovTech in that in for the masses that we have? Any idea? Like you can speak up or just type in chat. That's the way we
I
can.
think we are dealing with a large scale in both of the systems. We have to
हाँ,
deal, we have
correct.
to
Scale
provide
है.
it to the large population.
ठीक है, ठीक है. So two parts there. One is long tail of the population, very corner cases वगैरह. That Google doesn't care about, right? The Google, Microsoft, they're happy with getting revenue from the urban guys. So they don't really care about that one guy in a Rohtak district in Haryana who only knows how to speak Haryanvi and doesn't have access to a smartphone, right? Google won't care about that guy, but government has to care about that guy. So that is that way. That is the difference. But what is common is the scale. So massive scale, when you say Google Maps is and suddenly billion users are using it at any point in time, let's say 10 million users will be on Maps at any point and so on. That is huge, right? So how do you now ensure that that happens in a good way? So for that, you really need to understand first, how do you think about this as a system? How do you design a system for any project? So let's take a simple, simple example. Let's say I want to have a simple portal which is accepting complaints. So it's accepting certain complaints from users and keeping it, acting on the complaints, acting on follow-ups and so on. And then giving a dashboard here, how many complaints are there from what category. Okay, simple system like that. Can you tell me what are all the components required in this? How will you build the system? Let's say what stack will you use and how will you build it? You can type on chat or just say it out loud, but keep it brief just so more people get a chance to speak up. Anyone? Okay. Shivam says database, front-end framework, backend. So backend ho gaya and logs. Now, that sounds good. Now, if let's say, so you created a database, kya lagaoge? MySQL lagaoge? MySQL laga diya, and then what else will you use? You will put, you will have a front end, some framework, let's say React and all. That is hitting, you'll hit SQL directly or you will hit an API. You need an API layer. Bolo. Shivam, if you can unmute and speak up.
I'm sorry, I'm actually in cab right now, so
No worries, no
thanks.
worries.
Yeah, I actually lost the connection just a minute ago. Could you repeat it again?
Okay. I was asking, you typed there, database, front-end framework, backend, and logs.
Yeah.
So you'll have SQL and pick some components, MySQL, and then you will have this one, apna front-end. Front-end would be what, React or just HTML, jQuery, basic?
React would be better. It really depends on the requirements, but React would usually use for dashboard because when implement time will be very less.
But will you directly hit the database or will you have something in between?
Cache, if it's the same data being called again and again, then caching would be better.
But Divij, I think Divij is answering that in some ways. I think for SQL interactions, use a DOL layer, right? Use an intermediate layer with some APIs or some data access objects. So that makes it easy. Caching bhi hai. All of you said caching. So that's good. Now, let's say I launch this. I launched this at scale. So I launch it for the whole population. I'll give you a practical example. So when COVID hit, right? 21st March, lockdown announced kiya tha. 21st March, matlab, we were in the middle of exam season. So end of March, all the kids in Himachal Pradesh had exams. So Himachal Pradesh has a population about 8 lakh students, about 50,000 teachers. And one fine day, lockdown came and we said, kya kare abhi exam ka? No exam? Or what do? We need to assess the students to really know where they are. So we said, let's do this on WhatsApp. So let's create a very different way. Let's experiment. COVID time is, so everything, all rules went for a toss. Let's experiment with WhatsApp. Can we take exam on WhatsApp? So what we did was, okay, have WhatsApp there. WhatsApp ka koi interface tha. WhatsApp APIs actually figuring out, getting things into. So the interface layer, there was no front end. That was WhatsApp APIs, and WhatsApp APIs going into a API DAO layer and then going into a database. Simple thing like that, right? And launch kar diya, right? We said exam hai kal, aa jao, and take this exam on WhatsApp. What happened? What do you think happened next? Within 15 minutes, we crashed. Why? Because we never realized that when we gave an order ki nahi exam hai kal 9 baje, तो 9 बजे से बोला था, but they took it literally 9 बजे, and all 8 lakh students hit the server at 9 a.m. And that's very common in government scenes. Why? Because they take everything as an order and then everyone just follows it. It's amazing how the Indian government works. It's really amazing. Democracy से election होता है, फिर वो hierarchy से actual government चलती है. It's absolutely mind-boggling. Looking at it's very humbling to see how that operations works, and it's picture perfect. So now picture perfect matlab even in COVID times with 1 day notice, all the 8 lakh kids showed up for exams. Of course, crashed the servers. बहुत गाली पड़ी, sorry बोला. Then after 2 days, we launched it again. And this time it worked better. So now many of you mentioned load balancer. So there is this concept of load balancer. So you cannot say कि 80 database में जा रहा. You have to figure out how do you keep hitting some query, and ideally for more complex jobs, right? This I'm just saying database, right? That's simple. But if I add some job to it, if I say you have to turn it into a PDF, one of the things in Haryana we were doing was, how do you get ask unemployed youth कि क्या क्या कर सकते हो, क्या आता है, क्या डिग्री किया है, what have you done, what have you not done, and so on. And then at the end, instead of saying bye bye, thank you for the survey, we said let us use that data to generate a resume for them. Okay, so let's generate a resume for them and give the back as a PDF. So now let's take that use case. Can you tell me how do I ensure that happens? So what is the way in which I should develop this system? Huh? So Palak, this thing, data lake or lakehouse, generally latency is bad. So generally you wouldn't pick a data lake or warehouse for just real-time transactional queries. You generally prefer a SQL or a Postgres. अभी बताओ ये resume वाला use case. So WhatsApp से people are hitting WhatsApp APIs, giving us data in the database, but in real time. We are going to say कि अरे don't worry, अभी देखो जादू ये resume ले लो. We are going to thank you for all this input. By the way, we'll also look for a job for you, but here is a resume that you can submit in different places. And we are auto-generating a resume PDF में. So now this system, what all would it have? We'll have to store data for the user. Yes, Shubham, correct? Perfect, Shivam. So queues chahiye. Now, why that? Why do you think? So processing the resume from that store. Okay, others, can you tell me? What are the questions in your mind? At least say what are the questions you're going to ask. कहाँ पे फटेगा? If I just said ये script है, in the front end only I said, now give me this database से ये लो and PDF generate करके दे दो. Now I don't have a front end, I have WhatsApp, so I have to do it on the server side. But server पे job चलेगा, क्या चलेगा? Any idea? Anyone has this concept? Anyone knows the concept of jobs, workers, queues and workers? Okay. It will be a hard call. So let me explain this for everyone. Some of you are probably familiar with this construct, but जहाँ पे you have a lot of things coming in. So if this was a manual process, always think of it that way. That's an easy way of thinking about a system. If this was a manual process, you would have people coming in, giving their data on a register, then you taking that, you typing it into nice little PDF and printing it out and giving them. Now, if 10 people show up at your queue, right? Then क्या करोगे? 10 people are all pushing data at you, right? 10 people are saying, मैं भी register में लिख रहा हूँ, मेरा पहले resume दो, मेरा पहले resume दो. That's not scalable. So what happens generally in the real world?
We use first come, first serve basis method.
You use a queue. तो पहले तो queue में लगा दोगे. You say कि now, just come on, get everyone into a queue. Queue में लग जाओ. So the same thing happens when it comes to systems which are at scale. You don't know how many people are going to line up in the queue. So you say कुछ नहीं तो queue में लग जाओ and एक-एक करके job लेंगे. अब एक-एक करके कौन job लेगा? Actually, can someone mute? Who's unmuted? हाँ, तो एक-एक करके अगर job लेना है, then what happens is one person, one job will come. What will the job contain? Job will contain all the parameters of that particular user. Yeah, all the parameters of the person's profile, and that job will contain the command कि यार इसको PDF बनाना है. So on the back end, we'll have a job. That worker basically will take this data. It's an API call. It takes the data, uses PDF make or something to a library to generate a PDF using this data. Okay, so now the output is a PDF. Now ये करने के लिए it takes about say 3 seconds for a CPU. Right? Let's say there's i7 sitting there, 16 GB RAM. Now you see दो queue ले लिए, तो how many can you process parallelly? So you can say, okay, I can take 5 at a time for a GPU or for a CPU, and 5 at a time I can process. But that's only 5, right? If your queue goes to 1 lakh, people are using it, and you are only doing 5 at a time. So now that's a problem. So then what do? you add more servers to it, add more workers to it. Is this clear? This concept of adding more workers to the thing. So there are jobs that need to be done and you're defining workers for it. And so these workers keep getting added. Now, how do you know how many workers to add? You put it on auto scale. So that is the beauty of managed services. So when you load up on Amazon or you load up on GCP and all, so all of these things, you can keep adding workers to it and you say auto scale hai. Agar 50 ka queue hai, to chala do 4 systems. Spring up 5 workers and keep that going. And like someone saying, Vaibhav, good one. You can now, how do you decide kisko job dena hai? So you do round robin. Isko ek de diya, isko ek de diya, isko ek de diya, isko ek de diya. Then you give the first one again. To usko de diya, usko de diya. That's round robin. So you keep going and you distribute. You need to find some scheduling way of how do you schedule it across these workers. Now that is a fairly simple system. But what we just did was by introducing workers in this process, we have made it infinitely scalable. So after our Himachal experience, right? This was back in COVID, right? 4 years ago. WhatsApp interaction and how do you do that? And we never estimated that all 8 lakh will be there. But nowadays we all have everything on auto scale, everything in a queue, everything atomic. So everything, there is no dependency on one dabba in the system. Everyone clear? Any doubts so far? So you have to think about a system like that. What are going to be the components in the system? And every component should be infinitely scalable. That is key in government systems or any kind of scalable system. Google mein jao ya government mein jao. You have to create systems that are infinitely, every component is infinitely scalable. Now let's add complexity to it. Ki, how does, let's say, things like UPI and all work? So if you think at population scale, now you would say some of these things, right? Let's say UPI is about payments. So एक interface है बीच में, that's an API and some mapping of account number to phone number that NPCI manages center में. But आजू बाजू तो banks का है ना processing. So all these banks have their own systems, right? So you have to every time you won't have the luxury in the government especially. So Google has that luxury. Google, Amazon, Microsoft have that luxury because they are big tech. They own everything. तो जीमेल भी मेरा है, ड्राइव भी मेरा है, फोटोज भी मेरा है, कुछ भी करना है तो मेरा है. You have to be in my world, to be able to do Google or to use Amazon or to use Microsoft. Like all of them are, that's why they're called big tech. They own everything. They don't want you to go outside that world. In the government, ulta hai. Government mein at population scale projects, you want the ecosystem to participate. You don't want it bottlenecked on one vendor. You don't want it bottlenecked even on the government. Why should government be bottlenecked for it? Because marega, that site will die after some time. So a good example is GST, for example. GST portal has millions of people filing GST on it now. So there is a portal that the government has created. They've also created an API that you can make API calls to file GST. And there is a portal that you can go in and click and file it. Can you tell me any guesses? Which of these two has more traffic? How much of GST is getting filed through APIs versus how much is getting filed through the portal?
So I feel API.
APIs, can you guess the percentage? Portal, Jay Shadik, you think portal? I'll tell you 80% of GST's filings are happening through the APIs. 80%. Only 20% is happening through portal. Now you will say, यार ये small business वाले इतने कैसे tech savvy हो गए यार, API call करके मार रहे. It's not कि API call करके मार रहे. They are using ClearTax ने कुछ GST का ये बनाया हुआ है software. Tally ने कुछ GST integration कर रखा है. So all these different players have created integrations with the GST portal. So there are easy to use things. It's just like if government said ki there is only Bheem for UPI. Then at some point you would get, right? Although Bheem is a very good piece of software, but fir bhi, you will have some limitations. Aajkal slow ho gaya, right? That's why I stopped using it. Just slow to start up. वो रुका हुआ है rickshaw वाला, and यहाँ पे Bheem मेरा fingerprint मांग रहा है, and then घूम रहा है, right? Unacceptable. So then you start using GPay. Then you say GPay be slow, then you start using MobiKwik, right? You keep trying out, but you have the flexibility to try out. And the ecosystem has the flexibility to allow you to try it out. So anyone can create a UPI app, get approved, have access to the API, and create an experience for me that is better. So multiple people have created GST experiences for a small business, and that's a great win for the ecosystem. Will this happen in the Google or Amazon context? Not really, right? Why? Because they want everything themselves only. So they would always say, नहीं 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 भैया Gmail में ही रहो ना, Gmail you can mail anything, कुछ भी मेल कर सकते हो, किसी को भी मेल कर सकते हो, लेकिन आना तो पड़ेगा gmail.com पे. That's big tech. But when you are in the government, you have to think in as system. It's not your system only. It is an ecosystem system. So who's a system in, who's an ecosystem here? So if I say ये resume वाला बन गया, right? Let's say we prototype something in Haryana, right? We say resume आ रहा है, WhatsApp में एक survey हो रहा है, and then we turn that into a resume. We have a scalable system. That is not the way you launch something in the government. That's a good prototype. We had it as a good prototype. Now, if you have to take this systems thinking, so think about a system that you built, an ecosystem play in this. How would you think about this? Any idea now? How do you get an ecosystem involved in this? अभी तो मैंने ही सब कुछ कर लिया. I'm acting like big tech. यार मेरा resume service है. If I have to think like a government, if I have to think like a digital public infrastructure that I want to provide the country, how would I re-orchestrate this or redo this in terms of who can play with it, what?
You need to provide access to other people.
Correct.
Like you can make your code open source, make it public.
Okay. Open source hai. Open source, but it's still my thing. APIs is important, but API at what level? I think Arpan had that, give API access to third party. Shan, all of you. Okay. Now, can you tell me what would that API be? API कैसे दिखाएगा? At what layer do you want the API? So you're saying resume generator API hai? What would be that API? Can you think? Can you tell me what would that API be? So, like you're saying, Vaibhav, development on API is needed. Let's say I make an API. So backend mera ho gaya, and people can create their own interfaces, alternatives to WhatsApp maybe. Huh? But still, it is limiting in the sense, it is still limiting me to resume generation only. Think of it. What I have as a service is a PDF generation. Mail merge है. पुराने जमाने का mail merge कर रहा हूँ ना मैं. I'm taking some variables and stuffing it in a resume template. So why not make it generic to say it's not resume specific. I'm not going to hard code the resume template. I'm going to take template from a list of templates. I can take any template. I may say 10th mark sheet ka template chahiye. I can say और कोई template chahiye. And now I'm going to take a template, take variables, take the data that can fill that particular template, and उसको जोड़ के PDF बना के भेजो. That is a service I need, right? Then what can the ecosystem do here? What can the ecosystem do? Ecosystem can provide multiple templates. So ecosystem can say, ये resume का template है, and it requires these 5 variables. If you use these 5, if you get these 5 variables, and you and you use this template, but ये आसा resume बन जाएगा. If you use these 3 variables, and if you use this template, experience letter बन जाएगा. If you want to give recommendation to someone, experience letter to someone, this person was with this company for so and so time. Now that is the value, right? Now if you say कि PDF, तो PDF generation is common, everyone can do it. So ठीक है, everyone can do it, then let the ecosystem do it. Why should the government do something? Now if you up level it to the next level, what was very important about our COVID certificates? COVID में भी PDF ही आता था ना? Finally vaccine certificate was a PDF. But it wasn't just a PDF. Anyone know what it was? It is called a verifiable credential.
That QR code.
With a QR code. Why was a QR code there? Because QR code could go to a server and pull that same data and again show it for the verifier. So maybe I modified the PDF, right? I went into a PDF editor, just changed my name and then put it as a PDF again. The guy would get fooled, but nobody got fooled in COVID times. Why? Because you could actually have a QR code that went to the government server and pulled data back. And it went to the government server only. So it went to nha.gov.in/something. So I know it's going to the right place. Naito I could hack it to say, go to my server, right? Travel.com. तो वो नहीं था. It went to a particular server. It got the key of that particular thing to verify कि हाँ ये genuine source से आ रहा है. Decrypted it with that key, and finally it actually showed the verified data. So now, if you think about it, just generating verifiable credentials is a very important component for the government. What all can you give? Let's say I created what all things that I can create as verifiable credentials. COVID certificate was the first verifiable credential that we really saw in action, and not just India. The same thing has been used by literally 100 countries have been using that same specification. About 20 countries are using the exact same software of COVID. So it's amazingly successful. Why is that? तो वेरिफाइबल क्रेडेंशियल कोविन का सर्टिफिकेट दे दिया, राइट? कोविड वैक्सीन सर्टिफिकेट दे दिया. और क्या दे सकते हो? कैन यू थिंक वो फर्दर? What all can come or does come as verifiable credentials today? School college certificate, exactly. डिजिलॉकर पे आज तो रिजल्ट इज डिक्लेयर्ड ऑन डिजिलॉकर ऑलमोस्ट. डिजिलॉकर को रिफ्रेश कर तो रिजल्ट आता है. दैट इज अ वेरिफाइबल क्रेडेंशियल. उसमें भी क्यूआर कोड रहता है. What else? So DigiLocker, now DigiLocker emerged, right? I'm coming to DigiLocker. DigiLocker is a place where you have all your verifiable credentials in one place. Yeah. So DigiLocker is like a wallet. It has all the verifiable credentials assigned to you and in one place. तो कोई भी आपके आधार के अगेंस्ट कोई भी कोई किसी ने वेरीफाई कर दिया तो वो they also put it in DigiLocker आपके खाते के अंदर. So now look at the components in the system. But what else can you use it? Yeah, voter ID, epic cards, school college certificates. और क्या है? कोई सर्टिफिकेट करा आपने, कोर्स करा, कोई कोर्सेरा पे कोर्स करा, वो भी वेरिफाइबल क्रेडेंशियल हो सकता है ना. आपका आइडेंटिटी कार्ड है, दैट कैन ऑल्सो बी अ वेरिफाइबल क्रेडेंशियल. अपार आईडी, एबीसी आईडी, उसका आइडेंटिटी कार्ड है, दैट कैन ऑल्सो बी अ वेरिफाइबल क्रेडेंशियल. एंड व्हाट इज द यूज ऑफ अ वेरिफाइबल क्रेडेंशियल से फॉर आइडेंटिटी? तो because I have an identity verifiable credential and I have an API exposed to for anyone to verify that, Amazon can put a student sale or a teacher sale on Teachers Day. We say 5th of September pe, if you are a teacher, just upload your verifiable credential. We'll verify that you are you. So log in with Aadhaar, verify that credential. So we know you are a real person and we know you are a teacher. And if these two things are met, you get a 10% discount because it's Teachers Day. We love you. Similar for students. Student का discount नहीं मिलता India में, right? That's a big problem because in the US and other countries, you will have .edu domains. And you must have faced that when signing up for trial versions and all. अपने colleges का ac.in होता है या ac होता है या फिर .com ही होता है. तो there's like random domain names. So domain names is not the way to actually say that you are a student. So now APAR IDs could be used to detect your student. You may get free trial software basis that and so on. Okay, so you see the cascading effect that one little verifiable credential came up with. So this is a spectrum. If you think in a very just मेरे को कुछ तो बनवाना है, I want a resume creator ना, मैं PDF का एक marker लगा के दूंगा. First thing that you would break with is you won't be making it scalable if you don't use workers and queues and all. So that is one understanding of architecture when thinking system design. The second level that you have to think through beyond that is how do I include the ecosystem so anyone can do what I do and the world is not dependent on me. I am there today, I won't be there tomorrow. So how do you create a system that runs forever? So then you abstract it to its minimal functionality. Its minimal functionality wasn't generating a resume. Its minimal functionality was generating something that's verifiable and it is sacrosanct. So people can verify it and trust it. So that is why you upgraded the PDF to a verifiable credential with a global standard of it. And then you are saying, I'm going to make available a service as the government to give you generate verifiable credentials. You have a template, you have some variables, you have your digital signature. I am going to return your verifiable credential. So suddenly this is a DPI, Digital Public Infrastructure. Why is it called DPI? पुराने जमाने में 40 years ago, the government had to build bridges, roads, tunnels, railroads, no? That was physical infrastructure. आज की तारीख में, what is the equivalent of a bridge? API is a bridge. और क्या है वहां पे? कुछ तो काम हो रहा है वहां पे, कोई तो वाटर का डिपार्टमेंट है, पावर ग्रिड है. These are your verifiable credential generators and so on. So government has started creating these things. These are key digital public infrastructure pieces. What are examples of these? You'll have Aadhaar, Identity is a service. It's a very critical public service. What else is a service? eKYC is a service, is a digital public infrastructure. eSign is a digital public infrastructure. UPI is digital public infrastructure. And abhi healthcare mein, the health department is creating an infrastructure to issue vaccine credentials, not just for COVID vaccine, but for any vaccine. अभी आप बड़े होंगे, आपके बच्चे होंगे, उनको जो पोलियो का टीका लगेगा, राइट? There'll be a vaccine credential generated to prove that that child got a polio vaccine. And that is digital infrastructure that the government is setting up. Okay, so when you are thinking systems, right? Now you're thinking your systems kahan se aa gaya? This is all systems design. You have to design a system that ensures that it's scalable. Every component has to be individually scalable. You have to ensure that it includes the ecosystem as well in the overall piece of things. You have to figure out how can others do what you have been doing. You know, at Google, we used to have this very interesting kind of construct, right? It was a mindset. You build something good, you build a team that can do that, and then you fire yourself. If you cannot fire yourself, then you have built a bad system or you have architected the wrong team. So you have to be able to fire yourself out of something, and someone needs to take that thing ahead. When you're thinking building systems in the government, in the population scale ecosystem, it has to be beyond your company, you yourself, and so on. It has to be not even the functionality that you are thinking. You are thinking only resume generate करके PDF देना है. बहुत छोटा सोच रहे हो. बड़ा सोचो. So suddenly you have to think for the country across domains. Agriculture में कहाँ पे लगेगा? Healthcare में कहाँ पे लगेगा? And then you come up with a construct like UPI. Then you come up with a construct like verifiable credentials. Then you come up with APIs that can be standardized. So in the retail commerce side, ONDC is that thing that we have been working with, right? ONDC is something that is being worked on, which is standardizing the way you can buy anything. You can discover something and buy it. You don't always need to go to Amazon portal. You should be able to create your own portal. You need not always go to a Flipkart seller. Your Kirana wala local guy can be your seller also. So actually, if you try out ONDC, it's like literally 30% off milta hai khane pe, yeah, even some of the goods, e-commerce mein bhi ye hota hai. Why? Because suddenly they are not charging that much. Same thing with Namma Yatri on auto rickshaws in Bangalore. You know, auto rickshaws want to come and they're happy to come. Why? Because it's not costing them 20% of commission. So there can be more business models when you democratize this with API. So in India, when you think systems from a population scale perspective, think of these three things. Infinitely scalable, hona hi hai. Second is ecosystem, hona hi hai. And third is you need to build on existing infrastructure. So when you say ki I have my mark sheets, I don't create an education wallet separately. What do? I store it on DigiLocker. If I want your identity, I don't create my own identity verification service again. I use Aadhaar, I use KYC. If I want to do payment, I don't invent payment and do a tie-up with Visa MasterPay again. I just use UPI. So these are little constructs that you have to keep in mind when designing systems. So now you may think, यार मेरा तो अभी CIFA-GT वाला project है, उसमें तो छोटा सा part है. But I tell you, even in the chota part, right, you can think of how to break it down, how to modularize it, how to have different plugins to it. So you will get more contributors also. You create one plugin, make it such more modular such that there is one plugin, but others can put in plugins. Just as Visual Studio Code, there are plugins, right? Similarly, there are plugins in any software. You can build plugins for anything. Calculator bhi banao, so you can make plugins for the calculation happening. Okay, so think like that. Just seeding these thoughts in your mind. So as you get into the real world, as you attack your project, I'd really love to see that systems thinking in your project. Infinitely scalable, ecosystem play, others should be able to participate in it. And you should be using existing infrastructure that's already deployed in the country. Okay, always think of these three things as you're doing your thing. Okay, yeah, Zoom has plugins, Sublime has the best plugins, and so on. So questions, I have a meeting to run to at 5. Chal, 2-3 question le lete hain. And otherwise just mail me, LinkedIn me or something. Shivam had a question. How do you plan for such huge software? Abstracting API for huge parameters are tough. So you have to, so the question is, yeah, do you list out everything, right? The answer is yes. List out every possible use case. एक बड़े से spreadsheet में ना, keep listing out use cases. बनाना नहीं है, use case list करना है. Then you stare at that sheet for a while and then you see patterns. अरे ये तो PDF generation वाला pattern है, ओ ये तो verification वाला pattern है, it's nothing to do with this. ये तो template से ही बनता है. You start finding patterns. I think if you can find patterns, then you abstract that into 3-4 things only. It may be a list of 100 items, but you'll abstract it into 4. The other thing that you would also do is instead of looking at them as patterns and you will also come up with things like, who else can do this? I shouldn't be doing all of this. You cannot do this. So then you will think, who else should be doing it? And then you will come up with, अरे Zoho क्यों नहीं कर सकता? ये तो Tally कर सकता है, ये तो Microsoft कर सकता है, अलग लोग कर सकते हैं, startup कर सकता है. Then you will find what is a boundary I need to give them. Think like that also. Then suddenly you do that. And the most important thing in simplifying this is, how do you actually create a simple version of it? What is the simplest minimal functionality that needs to happen? So UPI is a great example of that. UPI एक ही चीज कर सकता है, वो की पेमेंट है. Jazz नहीं किया उसमें. Even when building Aadhaar, I remember early days, it was only about the fact that you are you as a biometric. It wasn't meant to be an address proof or a birth date proof and all. अभी वो थोड़ा skew हो गया है. But originally and even today, Aadhaar is just identity, it's not passport, it's not citizenship. So minimize the functionality of something. If you get it down to the bare minimum, then suddenly, clarity emerges. So I think that is the key to doing that. Chal yaar, I need to run, but wonderful. I love the chat. A lot of very active and very enthusiastic folks. So keep it going. I'm sure we'll keep talking over the next couple of weeks and keep shooting any questions. I'm Rahul at samagragovernance.in, or you have me on LinkedIn also. Happy to answer any questions as you go through a process, and I'll keep observing. I'll be on Discord also, so tag me anytime. All right, fantastic work, everyone. Congrats again for being here, and look forward to fantastic projects coming out. Abhi thoda aur systems thinking laga ke.
Thank you so much, Rahul. Thank you for that interesting session.
Thank you.
So let's sort of spend 5 minutes and let's talk about takeaways from this session. Rahul, if you want to drop off, you can go ahead and drop off. We'll just
Thank you.
I'll send a few questions also that come your way.
Please send me. I'll reply offline. Thanks.
Perfect. So, guys, what are your thoughts? How do you like the session? Any takeaways you may have? You can sort of type it in the chat or raise your hand and go ahead and just share them. Come on, itna enriching session abhi hua hai.
I would like to go forward, Abhimanyu, may I?
Yeah, sure. Sabya.
Okay, thank you so much for first inviting me. And it has been so grateful to learn from the best of people, right? I would say to really emphasize on the contributions of not just and make it a very collaborative environment. And for that to happen, and when we are diving into open source, I am sure that other people have various experiences from various like their seniors, their parents or family members, when they are in the startup and when the money is coming in, it is all about them. But when you are working for government, it's about having an open heart and learning ways to collaborate and brainstorm through limitations. And I think that is something when all these contributors are moving forward, and I also as a mentor, I think that will be a beautiful thought, and how to really modularize each and every aspect of what we are building. So what I've experienced is that in India, and it is very much, my professor also said that we don't plan really before moving ahead into a project. We just start finding the solution, okay, how I can just execute this problem, and we just dive into it. But to sit and now first think of various modules and how we can scale every module, as Rahul said, that is very much important, because we are building a global public infrastructure, right? And I think that is something that I wanted to share. I really want other people to share how they are feeling about opening, because they are selected, right? I really want, can we open tickets for other contributors also, that who have not been able to get selected in this particular cohort? So that will be interesting. Thank you.
So 100% Sabya, that is something that we will look to. We're sort of going to be also opening community tickets, and they will definitely have some idea of like system design with them. So you can take all your learnings from this and also sort of work towards those community tickets in the future. we can maybe take one more sort of takeaway if anyone wants to share, and then we can move to understanding how C4GT and DMP work. So
may I go ahead, Abhimanyu?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so hello everyone, I am Devas. So I have created a notes about this session. So it was a very great session, learning from a very huge celebrity. And as you have mentioned about him, it was very great learning from him. So we talked about the system design, and what key points I had kept in my mind is we have to keep the user's perspective in our mind. And the last point sir have taught us is like we will create a whole spreadsheet and we'll stare it for a while, and we will create a pattern, like yeah, we want to create a PDF or whatever we want to do. Basically we want to generate a credibility in our system. Okay, so that's what I have taken away, and few more things I have also note that two main points. Yeah, I would like to share is that our product should be infinitely scalable and ecosystem play. So these 2 points I have kept in my mind, so that our product will stay in the market and will contribute to the government or our country.
Cool. Thanks, Devash.
Yeah.
One thing I would urge everyone to do is after the bootcamp gets over, in our WhatsApp group that we've created, just leave any questions you may have for Rahul. I'll share them with Rahul and we can sort of get answers back for all of you. If that's clear, guys, Shelza, you can sort of take them through what C4GT is and what DMP is.
Sure. Thank you, Abhimanyu. Hi, everyone, and really nice to have you all here as a cohort. Very excited. So I'll just start with a quick introduction about myself. Not sure if I have connected with anyone, but I'm sure like I would have seen you all on Discord, and I'm always there hovering somewhere on Discord, LinkedIn. So you might have seen me here and there. So I am Sheliza, and I'm currently leading the Code for GovTech initiative as part of Samagra's team. So I have been working at the intersection of public policy, governance, and technology since the last 8-9 years. So that's been my experience. I've worked with the government of Haryana, Himachal, UP, and Odisha across domains like healthcare, education, agriculture, fisheries, animal resources. So across domains. And a lot of my work has been focused around how technology can lead to systemic transformation, how technology can lead to at scale interventions. Because when we talk about India, and even talking about a small state like maybe Himachal, the population is really, really huge. So you need technology when you are designing for something at that level. Okay, so with that, I will just share my screen. So what I wanted to do today was just take you through what is C4GT and what is the dedicated mentoring program, because we do get a lot of questions, and we do sometimes feel that maybe people are not very clear with what do we mean by these programs and the entire initiative. So before I get into what is C4GT and what is DMP, I think DMP you all are still aware what is the program because you're part of the cohort. But would anybody like to share what is their understanding of Code for GovTech initiative? What do you think we do, essentially, in short? Anyone, you can just unmute yourself since I'm sharing screen, so I can't see everyone. So yeah, just unmute yourself and speak.
Ma'am, may I go ahead? Yeah, so ma'am, actually, when I was searching about these organizations and all, so I used to take part in different classes, means already recorded sessions. So what I have got to know is that we are creating open source softwares. Like one open source software I had seen, and which had created an application called Diksha. So my mother is a teacher and she used to use it. So
Okay.
so I got to know about, like, I got to correlated about it, and I had seen that this is a enormous, means this is astonishing thing. So yeah, so that's what I think, like what C4GT is doing, and how it is contributing to the government.
Interesting. Anybody else?
Yes, Shelza. This is Palak.
Yeah,
So, hi. So basically, in college, I would participate a lot in hackathons and others like events and anything that was closely related to technology and innovation. So I've also participated in Smart India Hackathon. So after that, when I saw this opportunity on Unstop, I immediately applied for it. So what I understand is basically this is a government initiative for students and learners who want to grow their network, who want to experience companies and projects that are not like that easily available on other platforms. So this is, I feel, somewhat like GSOC, which was like there was a like real craze of GSOC in college. So I think this is a government initiative of that kind, and since this is Indian government initiative, I feel for me it has more value that I'm selected over here and I'm here. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Palak. Shivan on chat, he's written this is something similar to iSpirit Foundation. Has anybody else heard about iSpirit? How many of you have heard about iSpirit? If you can just raise your hands. Okay, okay, cool. Okay, so I'll just sort of demystify what C4GT is. I think there is varying level of understanding across the board, and of course you have different ways in which you got introduced to this program and you started applying, right? So would like to also share a little bit more about our journey, our theory of change, and what are we trying to do as Code for GovTech. But before that, I just wanted to sort of flash this. So we have discussed this a little bit in Rahul's session as well, that how technology is playing a huge, huge role when it comes to socioeconomic goals. And like I was sharing as part of my journey as well, I've worked with different state governments, and technology has been a huge lever to implement at scale programs, to implement at scale interventions. And these are some of the tech pieces. You would have heard UPI, right? How UPI has transformed how payments are done in India. Within a couple of years, we can see the entire transformation, right? These days, nobody carries cash. Even a street hawker has like a QR code and you can scan. Even 10 rupees these days, I am paying using UPI. I don't have any cash. So how we have transformed the entire payment ecosystem through UPI, that's one example of technology. Another example, Diksha, like you mentioned, right, that your mom is a teacher and she uses Diksha for learning and for training purposes. And this is also used by a lot of students to upskill themselves, to look at some additional resources apart from the books and everything that they're referring. So this is another platform that has really enabled learning, digital learning in the entire government ecosystem and also beyond, not only government, but beyond. So here I'm not limited to government, it's limited to the entire populations. That's why we use the word population scale. Another example is MOSIP. How many of you are aware of MOSIP? What is MOSIP? Have you heard about MOSIP in some discussion somewhere here and there, read some article? Okay. So MOSIP essentially is an identity digital public good. So it's a building block that has been abstracted out of the Aadhaar system. So when India developed the Aadhaar system, imagine such a huge population and having identities of almost all the entire population, right? That's a huge, huge win. So other countries are very interested to have a similar system, especially the global south. And that's when they started reaching out to India and asking about how we have built our own identity system. And that's when MOSIP, which is a building block for identity, came into existence. It's housed in IIIT Bangalore. There's a team that manages the MOSIP tech building block. And there are around, I think, 15 plus countries that have adopted MOSIP and built their identity system on top of it. So it's a huge matter of pride for India that a tech system from India, developed in India, ideated in India, is being used by so many countries, and they are essentially leveraging it to build their own identity systems on top of it and ensure scheme delivery, service delivery to the entire population. So that's what MOSIP is. So hence, these are some of the technologies that are really changing the entire landscape of how the socioeconomic development is happening. Now, what is a digital public good? Like we keep saying DPG, DPI. So DPG is a digital public good, and DPI is a digital public infrastructure. So I want to spend some time getting to the crux of what do we mean by a digital public good. So on the screen, you can see a definition by the United Nations, how they describe a digital public good. So it can be any open source software, data, models, AI models, standards that adhere to certain standards and privacy best practices and are designed to achieve sustainable development goals. So it can be any open source tech piece. In short, when these tech pieces are sort of stitched together to form an infrastructure, to form a platform or to form a product and deployed for services and delivery, that is when it is called a digital public infrastructure. So DPG in sort of standalone, it's just a tech building block that's there. It's a passive tech piece that's there. When you pick it up and you stitch it with other building blocks, you're deploying an entire system, which is called an infrastructure. So for example, the whole idea behind roads, right? So now we have so many roads. Roads is a normal thing, but the knowledge behind how to make a road, that's a public good. You know, I know, if I can access that information, that R&D, that entire research and development that has been done to build how to build a road, that's available for anyone. So that's a public good. And using that good, I am constructing a road, which is infrastructure. So road is an infrastructure, but the knowledge of how it's built is a public good and it's available openly. So that's the relation between digital public goods and digital public infrastructure. So any questions around this basic, because this is sort of the fundamentals of why we are implementing C4GT, right? So I want us to understand this very clearly. So that next time if somebody asks you what is C4GT and what is DMP, you should not give vague answers. That's very important. You should know what you're doing. So any question on what is a DPG, what is a DPI? What I'll do is I'll also give you an example. So you all know what is COVID, right? We have gotten our COVID vaccinations from that platform. So everybody knows what is COVID. Now, COVID is a DPI. It's implemented, deployed system using which we are getting our certificate vaccination certification. Now, behind COVID, there are multiple building blocks, right? There would be, if you break down the entire system, like Rahul mentioned, there'll be multiple building blocks that you can abstract from there. One of the building block, which is the key building block, is DIVOC, which is essentially providing you the verifiable credentials that Rahul was also speaking about, which is the QR code that you get on your certificate. So that's the core building block that is essentially ensuring that nobody can fake that vaccination certificate. So DIVOC is the DPG, which is open source building block. When it's built together with other building blocks and deployed for a use case, like COVID vaccination was a use case, it became COVID and it was called digital public infrastructure. Now you would have heard how different countries adopted COVID, right? It came in the news and I think you would have also heard and you would have also read about it, how different countries also started adopting COVID. So they did not adopt COVID. They adopted DIVOC, which is the DPG. COVID is a closed system, which is an implementation by the government of India. So we cannot give that system. What we gave them was the base of it, on which different countries can then build on top of it. Now, what happens when you make these building blocks open for anybody to use? What happens? Like, just would like to hear your thoughts. What do you think will happen when this is a reality?
So they would be able to make their own system using DPG and
Yes,
distribute it among their citizens.
exactly. Countries can build their own systems on top of it. And if they start doing this, what is the
Problem that may arise?
Sorry, Sabya, can you repeat?
Are you pointing towards the problem that will arise?
No, I'm pointing towards what is the advantage. So right now also, if DIVOC was not there or if MOSIP was not there, we would have still, any other country can also build their own identity system, right? Like, what is it that is a value add for them here?
Reusability.
Exactly. So this is reusability and they don't have to spend money. Technology costs money, right? They'll have to employ engineers like yourself and pay a lot of money and get the system made. which is very difficult for countries in the global south. They don't have that much money to spend on systems. Hence, that is a huge advantage of the DPG, DPI way of developing systems. That's why it's a big thing. Otherwise, there is no, use, koi fayda nahi hai na uska. That is the reason why everybody is talking about this. So any questions around what is DPG, what is DPI, why are we doing all of this? Anything around that? Cool. Now, what is C4GT doing in all of this, right? So you understood the DPG, DPI ecosystem. You understood how governments are building technology. And DPGs and DPI are not only limited to government. Even an NGO or even a private organization can use a DPG and build their own infrastructure. The classic example of that is Namayatri. How many of you have heard about Namayatri? Now it's in Delhi as well, but it's predominantly Bangalore based. Okay, Vandit has heard about Namayatri. Does anybody want to unmute and tell us what is Namayatri? Vandit, do you want to explain it to everyone quickly? Okay, Hareen has also heard about Namayatri. Yeah, anybody?
So like it is a mobility application, like it allow to open mobility initiatives. So it is like just an app that allow you to like move from one place to another.
It is in short Uber Ola.
Yeah.
So it's exactly like that. It's like Uber, Ola, Rapido, any of your applications. But what is different about it? It's used building a DPG called Beacon, which is an open network DPG. I'll not get into that. Maybe we can do a session on Beacon separately. But it's been built by JustPay, which is a for-profit private organization using an open system. So it's not only limited to governments. The point that I'm trying to make is it's not about governments. It's just about some open products that are available for you to use as building blocks. But the reason that you're using it has to be a social good, has to be achievement of sustainable development goods. You can't use the system for a malpractice, right? That is not what a DPG DPI is. So that's the difference here. Okay, moving on. What are we doing in this entire ecosystem, right? So we are trying to create a community around these products. Because right now what's happening is that these are all open source products, but very few people are aware about these products. And in the future, if we want to sustain these products, we would need to build a community around these DPGs. Only then the adoption will be a lot more. People will know about it. There'll be a lot more awareness. People like you will contribute to it. You might also start using it in your work, right? If right now, if you're using a proprietary tool and if you feel like, oh, this is something that I can leverage, then you might also start using it. You might start becoming adopters. You might start building DPIs. So that's what we are trying to do. We are trying to build that ecosystem of organizations who are building these products, organizations who are trying to adopt these products, and in the middle have contributors like yourself who would help in this building and adoption. So that's the larger vision. And also another point here to notice is that these DPGs are being developed using philanthropic funding. So they are not developed for profit. Hence, they need that support. The teams are very, very lean. So when you also interact with the organizations that you're part of, you'll realize that they're either foundations or not-for-profits or NGOs or even government departments who don't have really big teams like the Googles and the Amazon of the world have. So they don't have really huge tech teams. Hence, we need people like you to be able to, enable this ecosystem. And that's what we are doing. We're trying to facilitate that collaboration. So in this diagram that is there in front of you, you can see on top, we have all the organization. And in the bottom, we have the community of developers. And in the middle is our role. So we are trying to enable that collaboration through multiple programs. And one of the program that we implement to do that is the dedicated mentoring program. So these are all the organizations that are currently part of the ecosystem. So we also have a lot of global organizations now who have been part of the ecosystem. So they're growing the community every day. So yeah, some of the countries that we have this year. Now coming into dedicated mentoring programs, so one of the programs is DMP. Now, what is DMP? DMP is nothing but very similar to, like one of you said, GSOC. So C4GT is not GSOC. DMP is similar to GSOC, where you have certain projects given by certain organizations, and these organizations are then selecting contributors. Contributors get selected, and for a period of 3 months, you work with the organization and get a stipend for that work that you're doing, right? So that is what is similar to Google Summer of Code, because we want people to get engaged at a more deeper level with these products. So hence, this is a good program to start with, to get yourself acquainted to. This has been our journey. So back in 2022, we started with just 4 organizations. The DMP just had 4 organizations and 13 contributors, only 13 projects. And today we have 42 organizations and more than 100 contributors with us. So that's been a great journey for us personally. And these are the organizations with whom you all have been mapped for this year. You can spot your organization here. We also have a design track this year. So as we speak separately, we have a bootcamp for the designers as well. Today itself, we are kicking off that as well. So we have some projects on design also this year. This is a quick snapshot of your timeline. So right now we are in the boot camp, which is 6th, 7th June. 11th June is the inauguration. You all would have received the invitation for that. So please join for the inauguration. We have some great speakers there as well who will give you perspectives in this entire ecosystem. Then, of course, once the coding period begins, we'll have weekly check-in where there'll be full tracking of what's happening, how much work has been done on the project, so on and so forth. We'll have 2 sets of evaluations. One will be midpoint, which will be end of July, and the second evaluation will be somewhere in beginning of September, where you'll have to give the demo of the work that you have done, and the evaluation will be done across what the goals were of the program. And then we'll close it with our annual conference, which is called the DPG Dialogues, where you'll all also be participating in person. So you'll get to meet everybody in person and some of the industry leaders in this conference. So yeah, so this is a quick snapshot of the timeline. I'll just stop here. Any questions, any concerns that you guys want to raise?
Can you explain, like, in where was last conference held, like the place maybe?
Delhi.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah. I'll just open it up for questions. So anything related to the program or related to how it's going to be, any questions related to the ecosystem, why we are doing what we are doing? Okay. ONDC ride sharing platform built by JustPay. Okay. Any PPO opportunities? So of course, like it all depends on your performance, to be very honest. So if you're performing well and if the organizations are hiring, you would definitely get an opportunity to apply there. And we have seen that previous year as well, that if not full-time opportunities, usually people do get internship opportunities during the winter as well. So I would suggest that just be at it. Really try to understand where the organization is coming from, what is it that they're trying to achieve, what is the mission, what is the impact that they're trying to drive. And of course, if you're doing well, it will happen. So in case of COVID emergency, did other countries use India's DIVOC? Yes. DIVOC was used by, I think, around 10 other countries. So you can read about it. It's a huge success story. So I would recommend you all to read about DIVOC and about MOSIP. These are 2 very successful DPGs that are enabling global infrastructure for other countries. Why we are doing in the start project direction to be selected? Okay, I didn't understand this question. Whoever has written, can they unmute and explain? And the name of the person is Lenovo. So yeah. Who is Lenovo, guys? Okay. We can say DMP contributor as internship or open source developer. You can say DMP is an internship because you're getting paid for it. You're getting a stipend, so you can call it an internship. Okay, any other questions?
Can you answer Jayesh's question? Will the evaluation be done by the mentor himself, or like who will take the evaluation?
Can you repeat, Palak? Your voice was a little muffled for me.
I was asking, who will evaluate our work, like the mentor himself, or the part of the organization, or some like from you, from your team, like Samagra team?
No, so your work will be evaluated by the mentors. So they have the entire end-to-end discretion because they know what is needed in the project. But in the midpoint and endpoint, we'll have external reviewers who will be more senior folks. So for example, Rahul will be one of the reviewers during your midpoint and endpoint. He'll be reviewing the work that you and your mentor and the organization are doing together and providing feedback. So it will be a combination of the reviewer's feedback and the mentor's feedback, but the final discretion will be with the mentor.
Okay.
Okay, what is amount of stipend? Is it fixed or variable? Shubham. Guys, ये stipend तो देख के तुम लोगों ने apply करा होगा कि बिना stipend देख के apply कर लिया था. So I think Shubham wants to know कि सबको fixed उतना ही मिलेगा कि performance पे stipend मिलेगा, which is a good question. I think Abhimanyu was going to cover that in his section. I'll just take it up. So the total stipend is 1 lakh for a period of 3 months, which essentially is 11th June to 11th September is what we are counting. And in that, we have 2 payouts of 50,000 each. So one pay of the first payout will be made after the midpoint demo, and the second payout will be made after the endpoint demo. If you pass, so that's the criteria, that there will be a passing threshold. If you pass, then you get the payout. If you don't pass, then again, it is at the discretion of the mentor whether they want you to continue for the second half or they want you to drop the project. So there can also be a situation where the mentor might feel that maybe, the skill sets are not fitting, or maybe, it's not a good match. Then they can take that decision as well. So we'll also be sharing a contract with you guys. So you'll be signing a contract which will mention all of these criteria. What if we can pass mid pass eval? Will we be given chance? Yeah. So like I mentioned, that will you be given a chance or not? That will be the decision of the mentor. Okay, Abhimanyu, over to you for the next part. Okay, there's another question. Just like Smart India as a industries. Okay, so yeah, another thing that I did not address. C4GT is not a government initiative. Samagra is the implementing partner. We are not a government entity. We are a consulting firm based out of Delhi. We are funded to run this initiative by the Gates Foundation and Umidya Network, which are two of the largest philanthropies in the world. Our community partner is GitHub, and our knowledge partner is the Digital Public Goods Alliance, which is a UN set up entity to monitor the development of DPGs in the world. So it is a non-government setup. That is one question. And the other thing that I think the question was there on the group that are these projects with government ministries? No. Not all projects are with the government ministries. There are some projects. So it's a combination of government and non-government projects. But you might be working with organizations who are implementing further their projects with the government. So for example, whoever is working with eGov here, your projects are being used in a judiciary reform project, like by the judiciary, not even by the ministry, but by the justice system. So whatever you're building is in some shape or form being used by the government, directly or indirectly. Okay, do you guys have a college ambassador program? We do. We might in the future, actually. So we are in discussions about launching a college ambassador program. It's under wraps, so please don't spill the beans and keep it a secret, but you guys will be the first one to know about it once we do, but we'll have it. And why, oh damn, okay, I don't know, what is this context? Is there any offer letter or something for selected contributors? Contract is something that you'll get. Okay, now I'll just stop taking more questions. But if in case you have any questions, you can just write it on the group. I am there on the group. Abhimanyu is there. Vanshika from the team is also there. So we are a team of 6 people. We'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Over to you, Abhimanyu. I'm so sorry I took more than the assigned time.
No issue, no issue. Cool. Yeah, guys, this is now probably the most important session for all of you right now, because you've kind of understood you've kind of understood a little bit about system design to sort of build better systems. You've understood what C4GT is. You've understood what the DMP is. But now that we've understood all of that, what are your roles and responsibilities as a contributor? Kia, now that we've come here, what are you supposed to do to ensure that you have a successful 3 months? So let me just share my screen and I'll sort of take you through it. Just give me a second. Cool. So Shelza briefly covered this. I'll just also take you through the terms and conditions of your engagement. So just to make it clear, your stipend is of rupees 1 lakh. That was something I'm hoping everyone sort of saw when they were applying. So the stipend is of 1 lakh. Now this stipend will be disbursed to you in 2 tranches. The first tranche or the first half of 50,000 rupees will be released to you on successfully clearing the midpoint evaluation. And the second 50,000 rupees will be released to you on successfully clearing the final evaluation. So again, Shelza mentioned this earlier. We can take questions on this at the end. The fourth sort of clause that you sort of need to know is that if after the midpoint evaluation, if you fail and the mentor feels that you're not making enough progress. Yeah, sorry, someone was asking a question. Cool. If the mentor feels that you're not making enough progress, the mentor has an option to drop you and drop your project. That is, you fail the midpoint evaluation, progress bhi nahi ho raha hai, mentor can choose to sort of drop you. Finally, in the case that your mentor decides to sort of keep you on, they feel like you've made a decent amount of progress, but you still failed the midpoint evaluation. You will get that entire 1 lakh, your stipend, on passing the final evaluation. Like, we don't want to be unfair to people. Final evaluation basically means that you've sort of completed the goal of the project. So even if you fail the midpoint evaluation and your mentor feels ki there is still scope of you finishing the project, and you finish the project, final evaluation ke baad, you will get the entire 1 lakh. Do we have any questions about this? We want to sort of make this pretty clear right now. We'll be sharing a contract which will have all of this, but just want to make sure that everyone's clear about this. So any questions, just unmute and ask. No, don't need to hesitate. Cool. No questions. I'll move ahead then. Okay. Cool. So now that you've got a clue of what your sort of terms and conditions are, what is your goal for the DMP now? If you have to abstract away a goal from these terms and conditions, what would that goal be? That goal would be achieving 100% of project milestones on time and scoring a 95% plus on the midpoint and final evaluation. That should be your goal. That does not mean that that is the passing grade, but मतलब अगर exam में तुम कभी जा रहे हो तो you don't aim to sort of score a 35, right? You aim to score high. So your goal should be a very high bar of 95% plus score on your midpoint and final evaluation, and you meeting your weekly milestones for your project. Yeah, this week I want to complete this much, this week I want to complete this much. All of that should be completed on time. So that should be your goal. Now the next question, the natural question is, how would you as a contributor sort of reach this goal? So for that, we have these 5 pillars, right? They sound pretty vague. I'll try making them a little real for you. So the first one is promptness in engaging with a mentor, continuous and iterative process of submitting PRs, submitting quality work, growth mindset, and project planning. Again, pretty vague. Let's sort of make them a little real. So what is promptness in engaging with your mentor? It means that if you have doubts, if you have any confusion, you sort of need to get that clarity from your mentor. Your mentor is not here to code for you, right? What is the mentor's role in this entire sort of project? It's to be your guide. It's to sort of be your guru here. I want to reach the project milestone. How the final milestone? How do I get there? The mentor is supposed to guide you to that final milestone, right? So for that, you need to sort of use and leverage them to clear your doubts and clear your confusions. Now, of course, question out here is how it can be achieved. One, though, very simple thing, we're sort of constantly going to let the mentors know about this. And this is something you should also follow up with your mentors about, that at least once a week, you need to have a virtual video call with them, or some sort of video call, whichever sort of method you use, completely up to you. But once a week, at least once a week, get on a call with them, get all your doubts cleared, sort of have your work reviewed, have your PRs reviewed out there, plan your sort of milestones if they're changing, do all of that on a virtual call with them. Second is we also mandate that you have one form of one channel of written communication with them. Could be email, could be Discord, Slack, even WhatsApp is fine, whatever you all choose. But this is something that now these folks are not going to be available all the time, right? For a video call, you have to sort of you'll sort of reach blockers and confusion throughout the week as well. So you can sort of reach out to them on written comms for small problems, reach out to them on written communications, and sort of get their feedback on that, and ask for help. Please ask for help when something is hindering your milestones. Now, this doesn't mean that you blast the mentor with questions if they're not answering. They're working professionals. They might take a day or two to respond. But if anything is sort of hindering your progress, ask for help out there. And in the case that you've asked for help a few times and your mentor is not sort of replying to you, you don't need to worry. Just let the code for GovTech team know, and we'll sort of speak to the organization in case we need to. Cool. The second is a continuous and iterative process of submitting PRs. Now, what does this mean? You can either, so if you have to approach a project, what you can do is Sara code you just write on your local machine, sit on your VS Code and just write a bunch of code. And then 3 months ke baad, you suddenly wake up and say, okay, I've finished this project. Let me now submit a PR. A PR is a pull request. Let me now submit a pull request to my mentor. This is the code I've written. That is not the way you have to do it. What we expect out of you is weekly pull request rates. You've written 10, 15 lines of code, you've written 30 lines of code, doesn't matter. If you made some progress in coding, every week, we mandate that you raise some sort of PR so that your mentor has a clear indication of the progress of your work, right? At the end of the day, this is a coding project. And the only way that your mentor knows you're making progress in a coding project is if they can actually check your code. And that will only happen if you submit PRs. So submit periodic small PRs. And also get these reviewed periodically. So every time you send a PR, make it a practice to sort of text your mentor, I've submitted a PR, please review it at your convenience. Cool. The third sort of thing that we expect out of you is submitting quality work. You have been submitted from over 2,600 proposals. We're a bunch of very elite, high quality coders out here. So one thing that we sort of expect out of you is high quality code. I mean, I'm assuming no one's going to be submitting code with errors, but that's a bare expectation. But even otherwise, just review your code at least 2 times. Your code's running, everything's fine. Still, after everything's running fine, even if all the test cases are running fine, just go through your code again. Just review it once again to make sure that it's doing exactly what you want it to do. And the second thing is following coding best practices. So tomorrow we're having a session on coding best practices. Sort of take your learnings from that and implement it in the program. Next, we sort of go to growth mindset. Now, what does this mean? Again, sounds very abstract, right? But let's try making it real. You should have a positive and go-getter attitude throughout the program. So you should be independent. How this can be achieved is first, so you should be independently motivated. Kia, again, out here, your mentor is your guide, but the captain of your ship is yourself in DMP. You're the one who should be driving the progress. Kia, you should be knowing more about what's happening in the project than your mentor. You should be the one who's sort of pushing the mentor ki follow up chahiye. The mentor should not be the one running after you ki I want to follow up with you. Where has the work been done? Can you please sort of send me so I can review? That should not be happening from the mentor side. You should be proactively sending your work to the mentor to review. Second is listen and work on the feedback. So mentor, again, your guide, your guru throughout these 3 months. They'll be giving you feedback, or maybe approach this way, maybe try it out a different way. What they want is the best for you and the best for the project. So they're not going to be giving any feedback that's intentionally going to harm you, right? Just logically speaking, their best interest is to give you the best feedback. So when you get any feedback from your mentor, don't get defensive. Think about it. Take 5 minutes to reflect here. Is this feedback valid? If it is, work on it. And that's something you should be doing. Third is be patient and respectful. So again, a lot of your mentors are working professionals and they won't be available all the time for you. So again, like I mentioned earlier, if they're not responding to you over 3-4 days and no sort of contact from them, let the C4GT team know. Don't sort of continuously blast them with messages, get aggressive with them. Don't do any of that. These people have taken time out of their sort of schedule to sort of help mentor you as contributors. So please be patient and respectful with them. Then we come to project planning. I cannot stress how important this is. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि suddenly you're 2 months into the project and you're like, अरे मैंने तो कुछ काम किया ही नहीं है, मतलब 2 महीने खत्म हो गए, there's only 1 month left. What do I do now? What do I do now? And start panicking. What you need to do is plan your time for the 3 months coding period well. So we have a sort of session on project planning tomorrow, and you can also leverage your mentors for this. Your mentors are working professionals to a certain degree. They have an idea how to plan a project, but we want you to be an active part of this. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि हाँ mentor जी आप पूरा project plan कर लो, मैं बस बैठने वाला हूँ. Sort of try understanding it. You're a smart folks. You have been selected for a reason. You're a smart folks. So try understanding. If I have to sort of reach this final goal, how will I break down that final goal into milestones? कि यार पहले ये करना है, फिर ये करना है, फिर ये करना है, फिर ये करना है. So get that down properly. So the way we would sort of recommend doing it is monthly and weekly planning. So at the start of this coding period, sort of pull out your critical milestones for every month. कि यार I have 3 months to solve this project. Every month, what do I need to do to ensure that at the end of the 3 months, my project is complete? And at the start of every month, now that you have that milestone for the month, how on a week, you need to sort of define weekly milestones. Okay, to achieve this month's milestone, what do I need to do this week? So break down your monthly milestone into weekly milestones. It's not that complex. What we're basically sort of getting at is that अगर तुम एक वीक में सोचोगे कि यार 3 महीने का प्लान मुझे पूरा अभी करना है, that's not possible, right? So kind of break it down from 3 months into monthly milestones, and those monthly milestones into every week what your milestone should be. The second thing you need to do is also review your work progress. So yeah, with your mentor at the end of the week, get in touch with them on that virtual call and go through, okay, have I sort of ticked off this week's milestones? And if you are continuously ticking off your week's milestones, that means you're clearly making progress on the project. There's no two ways about it. So that's number 2. Number 3 is, यार बीच में if you fall sick और बीच में अगर कुछ sister की wedding या brother का wedding है, ऐसा कुछ something just comes in which sort of which means for a couple of days here or there, your work capacity will be reduced, that you will not be able to sort of work for that time. Let your mentor know, because ऐसे चमकेगा तो नहीं होने ना कि यार कि right now my contributor has no capacity to work. So they will assume that your week's milestones are on track. So just let your mentor know that, hey, we I can't sort of work for the next 2-3 days because of XYZ reasons. Can we plan around that? As simple as that. Mentors will also be very receptive to this. It's not like they're going to sit on your head and say कि नहीं तुम्हें काम करना ही है. ठीक है. Now that we've got that out of the way, just give me sort of 1 second. Sorry. Yeah, cool. Let's now that we've got that out of the way, we've understood our goal. We've also understood what it takes to achieve that goal. Let's take a couple of questions first before we jump into the coding management system. So, any questions? Come on, I can't have made that much sense. Couple of questions here and there. Cool. Cool then. We can head into the. Okay. if your project requires something paid, some paid API or a DLT registration, then I would first say the first sort of mental model out here, speak to the organization. I'm sure the organization does not always expect you to pay for that. In case they do, let us know. We'll try figuring something out. We don't want you to be paying amounts to sort of be running this internship that you're doing. So just let us know in case something like this pops up and the organization is not providing you the service. We'll figure something out. Shuchita says, will there be flexibility during exams? I mean, that is first I'll take Shivam's question. Gen AI would require paid service. What about that? So Shivam, just the question out here, when you say Gen AI would require paid service, do you mean something like a chat GPT ke liye, sort of payment? Just sort of, can you unmute and answer? Shivam, do you want to? Cool. I'll just take the question as I understood it, which is
yeah. So basically, like, there are two options. One is either local LLMs or through APIs like ChatGPT API. Local LLMs, I don't think anyone can run some pretty good local LLMs unless you have a super powerful laptop. And I don't have that. So I think I'm left with an option of using API.
Correct. So if
For
your
now,
project, correct. If your project explicitly requires that, right? Here, this has to be something that's used, then yes, then we can sort of look into it. Either the organization will provide it, or we can sort of look at it as a C4GD team. But don't worry, we're not expecting to pay huge amounts for anything. So that answers that. Will there be flexibility during exams, Shuchita? So again, just align it with your mentor. I'm not going to be available for these next 2-3 days. Again, I'm sure they'll understand. ऐसा नहीं है कि you have to be active every single day. Just make sure that after and before your exams, you front load and backload your work. You do extra that time to sort of make up for the days. And Hareen, you say for issues, you say contact us, C4GD team. Who via which platform do you mean? You can ping me on WhatsApp. My number's on the group. Of course, I mean, all of y'all are on this group as well. Just ping me on WhatsApp, shoot me an email, whichever, both works. I would prefer WhatsApp so I can get to it faster. I tend to check my emails maybe once or twice a day max. So cool. Then guys, we won't then dive into this coding management system. We'll do a session on programming mindset first because we have Karan with us. So I'll just admit Karan. So, hi Karan. Karan, are you with us?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yep. Hi Karan. So Karan is going to be heading our session on programming mindset. So before Karan can sort of take this session and dive in, let me just do a quick introduction of Karan. So Karan is a senior engineering manager at Samagra, and he leads product delivery, especially of AI services. He leads a team of 12 plus software engineers who build open source software systems for India. One very sort of clear cut product that I am personally very impressed by is the Nipun Lakshya app, which Karan sort of headed building. It helps teachers test fundamental foundational literacy and numeracy skills in Uttar Pradesh. So Karan was sort of the lead on that. Take it away, Karan. You can go ahead and teach our sort of contributors about programming mindset.
Good. Awesome. Folks, do let me know if my screen is visible.
Yep, it's visible, Karan.
Yeah. Cool. So we'll try to keep this a bit interactive. We'll start off with some understanding of what is programming mindset or problem solving. We'll try to go into the depths of that, and then we'll try to do an exercise together where we'll try to solve a problem together. Good. So this session is going to be about problem solving. Hi, my name is Karan Tremal. As Abhimanyu has already spoken to you folks about me, I'm the senior engineering manager at Samagra. Um, First of all, congratulations and welcome to all the candidates who got selected for DMP. Really looking forward to working with you folks and looking forward to the social impact that you folks will be bringing with the various quality contributions that you'll be doing during the dedicated mentorship program. Um, just a small recap as to what we have achieved in the last few weeks, all of us together in this call, what we have achieved. We went through problem statements and found the ones that we like. We submitted detailed proposals and some of us also interviewed for them. And right now we got very well-deserved selections to work on problem statements that will ensure positive social impact. Right? Uh, now what? We did all of this. Now what comes next? Anybody would like to guess what is going to come up next? You can unmute yourself. You can drop it on chat, whatever you folks like to do. Coding part. Okay. So next, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be solving some really interesting problems, right? As Gaurav and Jayesh already mentioned, it's going to be the coding part, it's going to be the implementation. This is where we're going to be solving some really interesting problems, right? Now, when you solve a problem, right, what do you think is problem solving? How would you define problem solving? Lead code, okay. Lead code is a way of solving problems. Okay. What else? Breaking down big problem into small chunks. Fine. Hackathons is also problem solving. Reaching a specified goal is problem solving. Code chief is a good way to solve problems. Understanding the problem is also an interesting element of problem solving. Building the logic for a solution is also problem solving. Analyzing the problem, finding algos, finding approaches, really good ideas here, right? Based on the time complexity and space complexity, finding a good framework to solve a problem. Really good ideas here, right? But I think one of us got it exactly right. I think it was Shivansh. Most of us have kind of gotten it, but problem solving, the definition is the process of finding solutions to difficult or complex issues. Right. So some of y'all are still typing, finding the best and most efficient way to approach a problem. So basically finding solutions to a difficult or complex issues is basically problem solving. There is a nuance here as to why finding and complex issues have been oranged or highlighted. Right? This is basically because problem solving doesn't really mean that there is a solution and you're fine and you just get the solution and you start implementing it. Problem solving begins with finding various solutions to a difficult or complex issue. It's also, if you look at, and also you're trying to solve complex issues. All of us here have come in not to solve a very simple, let's say, a very simple arithmetic problem. These are complex problems which might require a lot to be done on front end, on back end, on system design, etc., etc. But if you look at this explanation again, right, there is one more identifier here. A complex problem doesn't really need a complex solution. It can be very simple. So some of you all also mentioned it. finding solutions to a problem statement, but you never mentioned complex solutions to complex problem statements. So all of us already are thinking in the right way. Most complex solutions have very simple solutions. The simpler you keep it, the easier it is for others to understand and for you to understand. Um, Now let's talk about certain steps that I personally, as a senior engineering manager, like to think of when I think of solving problems. Uh, the first step is to define the problem clearly, right? It is the time to take time to understand the exact issue, gathering more information, separating facts from assumptions, and identifying the root cause that you're trying to solve. A well-defined problem is half solved. I think the C4GT team through DMP has tried hard enough for your tickets, which you are going to be working on, or the issues that you're going to be working on, to be very clear, right? For the problem statement to be very clearly laid out to you in a very good format. But there could still be certain problems that you require more details on. This is the right time to actually go out to reach out to your mentors and ask them for more clarity about the problem statement itself. Okay, what is exactly the output that I'm expected to bring here? What are certain things that I'm supposed to do? What are certain things I'm not supposed to do? This would be the right time to completely clarify the end goal or the problem statement in front. The next is to break it down and to brainstorm solutions. As already explained, we are trying to solve complex problems, right? A complex problem can then be broken down into smaller, simpler problems. And this is the step where you break it down and you just brainstorm ideas. Brainstorm as many solutions as possible, even if they seem outlandish at first, right? No idea is a bad idea. You can always refine them later. You can always say that, hey, out of all of these three, I think this is the best one. Out of this one, I think this might work the best, right? And the last step is to evaluate and then to choose. It's very important to evaluate each of your brainstorming ideas, right? You need to consider each potential solution. You need to understand the feasibility. You also choose the solution with the best chance of success. So basically, you define the problem statement well. You break it down into smaller, achievable chunks, and then you brainstorm on it in detail. After you have brainstormed in detail, you basically evaluate and choose, right? Now, if I give you an example of how do you define a problem statement clearly, this is an example of a problem statement that we have at Samagra, right? What we do is we have a goal of the problem statement. We have the acceptance criteria very clearly laid out. We also have the test cases that someone would use to ensure that the problem statement has been solved, right? So very detailedly clear problem statement. Then we break it down and brainstorm solutions. Any problem statement might require something on the back end, something on the front end, something in the helper functions, etc., etc. You break it down and then you assign it to people, and then you come up with solutions as to this can be solved in this way, this can be solved in that way, etc., etc. And then finally, you come up with a pro-con analysis of each of your approaches, and then you also have a suggested approach at the end. So as you can see here, we have an approach 1, an approach 2, and an approach 3. And then we also have a suggested approach basis the pros and the cons of each of these approaches, right? Now, what this helps you to do is basically create a complete mind map of yours and basically show this to whoever is the decision maker and allow you to share ideas with them and then come down to the best possible solution. One of the pro tips for especially DMP members or DMP contributors is create the V1 for your mentors to review. Go to your problem statements, understand it completely, come up with approaches that you might want to take for various things, and then help your mentors help you. If you go to them with a very open problem statement, they might not be able to add value to you directly. But if you already take some efforts and create a V1 of your solution, they might actually be able to help you much more. So go ahead, even if you think it's not good enough, take those efforts, show that intent, it will motivate your mentors to help you more. So that's a pro tip that I wanted to share. Now, over the next, let's say 15-20 minutes of this session, let's try to solve a problem statement together, right? You folks can, I see a comment here. Please elaborate on the issue slide so that we can leverage it in orgs we are selected, like what is acceptance criteria and all. Okay, let me go back to that then. So thank you for the question, Devarsh. Basically, an acceptance criteria means that once you deliver this product or this ticket or this solution, you need to have steps, right? That when I do this, this happens. When I do this, this happens. When I do this, this happens. Once all these three things happen, my ticket is successfully delivered. That is what you mean by a test acceptance criteria, right? All developers have to look at this acceptance criteria and ensure that whatever they are delivering actually ticks marks all of this acceptance criteria. For example, an acceptance criteria is admin having the capability to add 2 segments to the same bot in the UCI admin, right? Once this ticket is delivered, you would actually go to the admin panel, go to the bot and try to add 2 segments there. If it happens and the flow runs completely fine, the ticket is accepted, right? If it doesn't do what the acceptance criteria is, the ticket would get rejected, or you would have to keep working on this. It also helps you to understand that, okay, I want to make this change in the UCI admin. It is related to 1 bot and 2 segments. So you basically plan out your entire solution basis your acceptance criteria. It's not broad enough to say, I should be able to do something with the bots. It's very clear. I go to the UCI admin, I select a bot, and I can now send it to 2 different segments. So basically, very clearly laid out output of your problem statement is what is an acceptance criteria. A test case is a more detailed flow, right? If I log in as an admin, I will be able to add 2 segments and roll out the bot. So basically, a more detailed test case to ensure that the acceptance criteria has been met. This is a well detailed out. What a well detailed out ticket at Samagra usually looks like. Devash, I hope this answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
So yeah, I was trying to get the entire audience figure out a problem statement to work together. So the chat is open. You can also unmute yourself and maybe send us a link of a problem statement or +1. Which problem statement would you like us to work together on?
Can it be like some analytical problem?
It could be one of the DMP programs because then it allows us to actually link ourselves to one of the DMP problems and to understand how would someone go ahead and fix it. It could also be your own problem that you're working on in DMP.
Okay, got it.
Can it be a real-time editor or something based using WebSockets and YJS?
Okay. That's an interesting problem statement. Could you write this down, Ajit, or in the chat?
Yes, sir.
Let's see how many people upvote for it, and if there's enough upvotes, we'll go ahead and do that. Starting pipelines based on a conversation between stakeholder and bots. Okay. Interesting. An automatic resume generator from an interview. Okay. Interesting. AI-based Indian language corpus translation tool. Okay. Also upvote if you feel like this is something you would do work on. A real-time multi-user text editor using WebSockets and YCS library. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I see 11 approach to automatic resume generator for an interview. Let's go ahead and maybe create a ticket for it, right? So let's say we go to Samagra website, we start creating a ticket for it, right? So what it says is automatic resume generator from an interview. Okay? So this is the problem statement that we're working on. For now, I'll just link it to one of our basic uh, uh, repos. What I'll now start writing here is what do we want to do here? So I think this was given by Shivansh. Shivansh, could you go ahead and unmute yourself and tell us what will we be doing in this ticket?
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, Shivansh, go ahead.
Okay, so it was like in one of the previous session, like they told us about an idea of like to generate a like a generator resume from an interview. It's like the person which we are trying to interview is like they stated from like Haryana region, so not like they are very like well educated or like that, but yeah, we can like scan their entire interview and then generate a resume from it.
Okay, who's taking this interview? Shivansh?
Yeah, it was taken by Rohan sir.
No. Who, at the end, who's taking this interview? Right?
Like
As we are building a solution to this, who's
it
taking this
can be
interview?
anyone from the organization side only, like
Okay.
whoever it is,
Okay.
whatever job role.
Okay. So let's say a C4GT or let's say an interviewee joins a call, right? Captions from the call are recorded. Right? Thirdly would be a resume is generated from the call. And in this resume, let's say we have, what should we say? Uh, educational background. Second would be, what do we call this? Work experience. Right? And C would be, let's say, skills, right? These three things is what we would generate in the resume from a call where an interviewee joins, captions from the call are recorded, and a resume is generated. Does this look like we are following these steps where we are defining the problem clearly, right? Any other things that are not clear in this problem statement right now? Okay, so let's say that this is our acceptance criteria. Now let's try to break this down into smaller chunks. Right? So let's create subtasks here. What is going to be our first subtask to do this?
To provide both the interviewee and the interviewer a platform where they can have a video call.
Okay, so let's say the video call is on Google Meet itself, right? So tasks or breakup, let's say acceptance criteria, or let's say clarity of problem state. Breakup is going to be platform to hold interview calls, right? This is the first step, right? What is the next step?
Probably the service we are using for the interview for the video call. If that service is providing the captions, that is okay. Otherwise, we would use a third party technology to generate captions.
Understood. So that's absolutely right. What would we do next?
Maybe we would want to store the captions or the data that we're getting.
Understood. Store captions, data for a particular interviewee in a database, right? Awesome. What next would we do?
Next can be to format the data so that we can later use it to generate the resume.
Format the data to generate the resume. Right now, we're just writing it down, right? We might clear this up or we might merge a few things together. I'm seeing breaking captions to the parts. I think this is what it says. What else do we have?
Maybe creating a template for the resume.
Creating a template for the resume. Okay. What else?
Then fill out the variables we have for resume, for example, education, background, experience, and skills, etc.
From the data into the template, right? What else?
Sir, as we are creating a template, so we will be requiring the email address, the phone number, the GitHub link, LinkedIn link, and so many things we will require. So we have to edit means manually. So it will be not generating, it will be not be generated from the conversation.
Okay.
So we have to edit manually, I guess. So what we can add according to.
Okay. So that okay, that should come from the caption itself. But okay, let me write it down, right? Manual information entry for what was missed in interview, right? Something like this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
What else? Basically send the resume to the candidate, right? That would be the final thing. And in the acceptance criteria also, we should add send generated resume to candidate. Good. Anything else? Resume PDF. Someone's mentioned PDF there very clearly. So I'll say this. This looks like a good enough breakup. But I think one thing that we have kind of not spoken in detail, we kind of have skipped here, is basically extracting variables or info from the caption content via a model, right? This model could be AI, it could be basically a simple lookup, could be anything. But that's the model. Then we format the data, we create the template, we fill out the variables, we manual information entry or override, manual override of information for what was missed. in the interview, and then we send the resume to the candidate. This is the second step. I haven't been very active in the chats. Let me just see what people have written. What is the use case of resume generation after the interview? Shouldn't it be a candidate report generation based on the interview conversation? So this is a good question, Divij. This use case is very important when it comes to career counseling. 12th standard pass outs in Haryana basically get career counseling from the government. They can join a video call, talk to a counselor, and as an output of this, they get a predefined or a pre-filled resume, which they can then take to prospective employers. So this is not basically an interview for a job. It's an interview for career counseling. The output is a resume, which you then take for jobs. So that's the answer to this problem statement. But that's actually a good thing to write here as well, right? Students get career counseling and as an output of career counseling get a resume which helps them in employment search. Cool. I hope this answers your question, Divij. Let's say he tells ki I have experience in XYZ education, finds it easier to look at after the call. Okay. Generate PDF originally. Okay. Cool. Understood. Cool. Now what we've done is first we defined the acceptance criteria very clearly as a team. We broke it down very clearly as a team. Now what is the third step? Is to evaluate and choose, right? Or to brainstorm solutions. So let's pick up one of these, right? Let's pick up creating a template for the resume, right? So let's say this is the breakup of the task. Now what we are going to be doing is creating templates of a resume. We are going to write down approaches. So let's say there is an approach A, right? How could we be approaching this? What do you think we should be doing to create a template for the resume?
We can use external library, for example, JS PDF, in order to create a resume that let us to customize the input.
Okay. So there is a js.pdf library that we could be using. Okay. I think this is more for a send the resume as a PDF to the candidate. Correct. This is not for creation of a template.
Oh
Right,
yeah,
Ajit?
exactly.
Okay.
I'm
So
sorry for that.
let's ideate on that. Cool. Let's send the resume as a PDF to the candidate. One is you could use a library of js.pdf to send it. What else could we be doing? That is one approach. What is the other approach to do this? Anybody with any ideas? Use node mailer to send resume. Okay, I'm getting upload it on a portal accessible to creds where a possible recruiter can also see it. Okay, send resumes. So use PDF library and create PDF. The next is send resume. Right. So send the resume ke liye we have approach A, which is upload to portal. The second is use node mailer. Use node mailer, right? So right now we are ideating how to send the resume PDF to the candidate, right? So let's say there is approach one. We upload it to the portal. I'm just going to try to. Oh, I cannot copy this message. But basically, if you folks can read the message there, it says you can upload it to the portal. Now, what you do is you write the pros and the cons of this approach. You write the pros and cons of this approach. Okay, we have two approaches. Which one is what are the pros? If we upload it to the portal, candidate as well as potential recruiter can see the con of this is whatever is the pro of this is the con of this only candidate only candidate can see this. What else? What is the pro of this approach? So who sent this? Arpan. Arpan, what is the pro of your approach of using NodeMailer? No authentication required, basically, because you are sending it only to the candidate. And here the con is authentication required because not everyone would want to show everything. So authentication required. That's a con. Available at any time, store. Jayesh, this is for which one? Available at any time to anytime store our database. First one. Okay. That's a pro. Available anytime. And this con is available only in email, right? I think the pro of this is also the con of this is also good. The pro of this is also good. The cons of this is also good. Privacy is also maintained. Arpan says privacy is maintained. So that's a pro. Privacy is maintained. Here kind of privacy is privacy maintenance requires some work. Cool. Dependency on a third-party service for key functionality. Okay, understood. Con is dependency on a third party. Node mailer. Here the pro is no dependency on third party. Cool. We can add an option to keep profile private. Understood. And hence I said privacy maintenance requires some work. I did not say that privacy maintenance is extremely impossible. It just requires some hard work. Privacy is maintained with limited work. Good. Understood. So I think this is a good enough analysis that we've done, right? What we do is we brainstorm, we did an analysis, and basis this analysis, we as a team can decide which out of these two approaches is the right approach to go for. Maybe when you talk to your mentor about this, they might come up with an approach 3, which is basically a combination of these two, right? Which essentially could be much more beneficial to your user. So basically what we did was we defined the problem clearly as a team. We broke it down and we brainstorm ideas. We also evaluated and then we chose. We chose the one which has the solution which has the best chance of success. Now, there is a possibility that this portal already has NodeMailer, right? So NodeMailer kind of becomes the go-to choice because your mentor says, hey, good job, NodeMailer is what we already use. Let's continue to use it. Or your organization already has a portal where you can upload this. So your mentor comes in and tells you, hey, this approach looks fine. So in the given constraint, whatever is best for you, you should work with your mentor to decide on that. Cool. Any other questions or any other things that you would want to cover here? Cool.
Actually, do we have to consider edge cases as well in such kind of tickets?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You should consider edge cases where, let's say, the platform that you are using to hold interview calls doesn't really expose captions out. So what do you do in that scenario? What if, as one of you all beautifully mentioned, you need to manually override the information which was missed in an interview, right? So you should be able to edit a
देखने आया था
caption.
कहीं तो मैं मार ना पड़ने लगे
You should be able to edit the captions. You should be able to add information from the captions, etc., etc. So this is a good example of handling an edge case. Similarly, extracting variables info from the captions via a model is a very loaded statement. There could be multiple edge cases here as well, which you should surely look into. Good. Anything else that people would like to talk about in this problem statement? We actually looked at this entire thing, and I'm pretty sure most of us are really clear as to at least how this is going to go down, right? In the same way, you can actually break down your problem statement further into more and more and more detail and come up with approaches for each one of them. Discuss it with your mentor. It would also help you learn a lot about that problem statement. Good. Hmm. I'll go back to the presentation. So as I explained, we've done these 3 steps very carefully in that problem statement, and we've gotten a lot of value out of it as well, hopefully, to everyone. I absolutely did. So I'll move ahead. This is something that we've already cleared. We also worked on a problem statement together. This was just a problem statement that I had kind of done as a pre-work. If we decided to not do a problem statement together, I was going to go ahead with this one. Hopefully you folks have seen this DMP problem statement already, right? MET data for everyone. This basically talks about, it has actually a really good problem statement. It has a good description. It also talks about the parameters you want to use. It talks about the goals or the acceptance criteria. It also talks about the expected outcome, which is also an acceptance criteria. It talks about a test case, which is this, etc., etc. It also gives you a very good design element here, right? Hopefully one of your is a selected candidate for this problem statement. What I had done was I went ahead and kind of created a problem, or I did a similar exercise for this problem statement. So let's define the problem statement clearly, right? According to that ticket, we are supposed to take data from the CSV and show it using a visualization format. That could be Metabase, Superbase, or any framework. That is what I understood when I looked at that ticket, right? The second thing I did is I broke it down and I brainstormed certain solutions. Breakdown would be, how do I view the data that has come to me in a CSV? How do I normalize the data? How do I pull the data into a DB? How do I write queries to pull the data? How do I display the data? So these are just some steps that I came up with. And then what I did was I evaluated and chose that, hey, maybe Metabase is better for this, or custom development is better, maybe Postgres is better, maybe SQL is better, maybe NoSQL is better. So this is how I would go about solving that problem, where I would define the problem statement very clearly with my mentor. I would break it down, come up with solutions for each of them, and then evaluate and choose. So this is how I would do that problem statement. Can you please share the link of that ticket? Sure, let me do that. Yeah, here's the ticket to everyone. Here is the solution that I thought of. Yeah. Any questions on this? If somebody would like to discuss this further. Okay, no problem. I'll move ahead. What are certain guidelines that I would suggest to you as a mentor or as a contributor are the following. Focus on the development. That is, how am I going to be able to solve this problem? How am I going to be developing the solutions to this problem, right? Embrace the challenges. As we just discussed, there could be, in that problem statement itself, there could be multiple edge cases that you come up with, right? So how do you go about accepting those challenges and working across them? Have a love for learning, as some of you all must have learned Node Mailer for the first time. As some of us might have heard of, let's say, AI models for the first time. You should, at that point of time, also go ahead and start researching. Hey, what is Node Mailer? How do we use it? What is js.pdf? how do we use it? How can I use it in my program? There should be just this love of learning. Also seek a lot of input from your mentors. This is why they're there. Whenever you are thinking of something, write it down, ask them about it. Hey, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think of this? Is this the right thing to do? Etc. etc. And finally, get small wins. And by breaking your problem statement down into smaller problem statements, you're always going to be winning by solving for those smaller problem statements. And that together will lead to a bigger win for your overall problem statement. So any questions on these 5 guidelines here? Cool. So I'll move on. So thank you everyone for your time in listening to me and trying to understand from me how at least I would solve a problem. And maybe that helps you also to solve the problem statements that you folks have already signed up for. And all the best for a very great 2024 version of the dedicated mentorship program. Abhimanyu, that's it from my side. Thanks. Abhimanyu, you're on mute. I think I can't hear you.
Sorry. Yeah. So I was saying thanks, Karan. That was a very enriching session for all of us. In case later on at any point, any of you just have a question that pops into your head about problem solving, you can just send it to me and I can sort of collate questions and get answers from Karan the same way you did for Rahul. So thanks, Karan. You can drop off if you want to.
Thanks, everyone.
Cool, guys. Let's now take a 5 to 10 minute break. Let's come back at 6:50 latest. We have one sort of part of our presentation left, which is what is the coding management system. This, along with your roles and responsibilities, is extremely critical because you need to know how to sort of use this coding management system, because this is essentially what will be used to track and monitor your progress. When we are releasing your stipend, we need to know that you're making progress, right? So to ensure that we know you're making progress on a weekly basis, we're developing this coding management system. What is coming up next is essentially a short session, a 5-10 minute session on how to use that coding management sort of system. So I'd suggest let's take a 10-minute break. I'm sure everyone's a little saturated right now. We've been at it for over 2 hours now. So quick 10-minute break. Let's come back at 6:50 and then we can take it from there. Okay, guys, let's start coming back. Everyone, break time's over. I hope everyone's feeling a little refreshed. Everyone who's back, could you just sort of switch on your cameras? Let's make this last sort of 2 sessions we have. I'd say 1.5 actually, because understanding the coding management system was part of roles and responsibilities of a contributor. But let's just make these last 1.5 sessions a little interactive, a little fun. Let's have a good end of the day, you know? I'm sure everyone's a little tired. थोड़ा लंबा चला है boot camp, but ठीक है. Cool. Let's wait for another 30 seconds maybe, guys. Quick, let's sort of switch on our cameras, be mentally present. Cool. Then let's start. Let's sort of dive right back in. So what have we achieved today? We've sort of had a session on system design that Rahul sort of led. You basically understood how to sort of build systems for scale. Now you know how that sort of works, or at least the mental model you need to have while designing your systems. You may have not, we've not gone to the nitty-gritty on how exactly to design your systems, but you've got an idea of what you should think about when designing your systems. Then we sort of understood what C4GT and DMP is, cleared a few clarifications, cleared a few doubts that everyone had. C4GT is not a government program. It works with government entities for certain projects. It works with non-government entities as well for certain DPD, DPIs, which could be used in the government sector. We also jumped into the DMP, understood what this program is, understood sort of the contours of it, what the timeline is, etc., etc. Then we jumped into the roles and responsibilities of a mentor. Now, where we were in terms of the roles and responsibilities as a mentor was one, we've sort of gone over the terms and conditions of your engagement. Ki what exactly do you need to do to ensure कि आपको वो 50,000 in total 1 lakh mil jaye at the end of the 3 months. So those are your terms and conditions. From that, we abstracted a goal. Ki what should be your goal? Suppose you had to put something on your wall. कि यार लोग करते हैं ना competitive exams के लिए this much 300 plus JEE score या ऐसा कुछ जो अपने wall पे लगाते हैं ना, that suppose you have to build a target for yourself. What should that target be out here in DMP? That should essentially be 100% completion rate on your weekly milestones and a 95% plus in your midpoint and endpoint evaluation. वो आपका goal बन गया. Now then we also spoke about how to achieve that goal. वो 5 pillars हमने बात किए थे ना, project planning हमने बोला था. Then we kind of spoke about growth mindset, submitting quality work, promptness and engaging with mentors, and how to submit PRs. कि यार बड़ा PR नहीं, छोटा छोटा PR करके you sort of submit your PR. So we spoke about how to achieve that goal. Now what we need to come to is how do we as C4GT track and monitor your progress? We also need to know that you're sort of making progress. The reason for this is not sort of to be sort of dictatorship कि यार लोग काम नहीं कर रहे, we'll sort of step in. The idea here is that we need indicators that something is not going well in a program, right? In a project. Suppose from your end, a mentor is not very responsive, and for some reason maybe you're nervous or maybe something along those lines, you've not been able to flag it to us. Or alternatively, if for a mentor, a contributor is not very responsive, कि आप काम ही नहीं कर रहे हो, and the mentor has also not adequately flagged it to us, how will we as the governing body of this sort of coding period know what's happening with your project? For that, we built this thing called the coding management system, and it doesn't require you to do much. The general activities that are expected out of the coding period will be as it is. This is just a little bit of additional sort of logistical work that needs to be done, which will take approximately 5 minutes. So let me just share my slide. 1 second. Yeah, cool. Is my screen visible for everyone? Yeah. Just sort of raise a couple of hands. Okay, got it. Perfect. So let's understand the coding management system then. So where are we getting this data from? How do we know that someone's sort of working? We try to keep it very simple. Let's not overcomplicate it. आपका जो issue ticket है ना, project का issue ticket, that's essentially where we'll be getting this data from. We'll be getting it from comments in the issue ticket. So what are these comments that we'll be getting the data from? What is the contents? What do you need to do? So covered the basics to track the contributors' progress. We've developed this coding management system, CMS for short. It pulls data from the comments on the project issue ticket. Now this needs to be on, of course, intuitive web, but just spelling it out obviously clearly for everyone. खुद का project issue ticket, मतलब the project you're selected for. आप eGov के project में selected हो, पर आप backend के issue ticket पे लिख रहे हो, तो obviously it's not going to work out. We'll be sending you the formats for this for these comments post the bootcamp. We're just ironing out a few kinks at our end, like just exactly the format to parse these comments. We're sort of figuring it out. But once we have that solved, we'll sort of be sending those formats out to you as well. Now, what are these comments now? What are the comments that need to be there? There is one comment that needs to be managed by your mentor. We'll be sending this information to the mentor, but this comment will sort of need to be managed by the mentor. And this comment will be your weekly goals. So we earlier spoke about the fact that you had 3 month, 3 month coding period. From that, you need to develop every month's milestones, right? And at the start of every month, from that milestone, you need to set up weekly goals, right? So that is essentially where we are. How do you sort of set up these weekly goals? So what needs to happen is at the start of the coding period, the mentor needs to add a comment on the issue ticket for the concerned project to capture the weekly milestones. This comment needs to be initiated for us to even start with the data collection. So we'll be sharing this information with the mentor as well. But in case they forget, from your side, also just nudge them, because you also sort of this is in your best interest, right? You want us to sort of know that you're doing work well, so that we can actually have a sense if आपके mentor के end से कुछ अच्छा नहीं चल रहा हो. Then at the start of every month, milestones for each week of that month need to be listed down by editing the comment. So this again needs to be done by a mentor. You sort of plan your weekly milestones with them at the start of every month. So first month may, for every week you define ki these are the milestones I need to meet for every week to show that progress is happening in the project. Those will need to then be filled into this comment in the correct format. Again, format will be shared. At the end of at the start of every week, then you need to take stock of your milestones. Do these milestones make sense? मैंने month के start पे set किया है. At the start of the month, I set these milestones for this particular week. But when I'm in this week, are these milestones sensible? Are these milestones achievable? Are these actual true milestones I can have for this week? If not, edit that milestone with your mentor. Of course, your mentor and you need to work together on this. Edit that milestone, change it, tweak it to whatever the actual achievable milestone is. I would always suggest keeping milestones a little ambitious, because if your milestones are always low-hanging fruit and easy stuff, the project kab khatam hoga. So keep your milestones slightly ambitious, but make them achievably ambitious is what I would probably say. Then at the end of every week, when you have that review catch up with your mentor, right, on virtual call, you sort of also spend a couple of minutes with them to tick off the milestones. Have I completed this week's milestones? If yes, then you tick it off. So then you know that you're clearly making progress. So you as an individual will sort of get that kick. If you look at it, last week I set 5 milestones. Sare 5 मैंने meet कर दिए. I am clearly doing a good job in this project right now. ठीक है. In case any milestone is not completed, you keep them unticked. मतलब there could be a situation 5 milestone आपने set किए for that week, only finished 3 or only finished 4. The one that's not finished, keep it unticked, leave it there, and then when it gets completed later, at some point you have to finish that milestone, right? Because it's probably something critical to building the project. That is what a milestone is, something critical to building that project. So at some point you will finish that milestone, and when you finish that milestone, just tick it off in the same week that it was planned for. अगर आपने week 2 का कोई milestone plan किया था, you've not finished it in week 2, you finished it in week 4 say, let's say you finish it in week 4, still tick off that milestone in week 2, so that you know that this is the set of it's in some sense also a laundry list of the tasks you need to do, and you finish that task then. So that is essentially the managing the comment for weekly milestones. I'll quickly stop here to take any questions, because this is important we get right, because a lot of our follow-ups and a lot of how we sort of gauge you as a contributor is based on this. So any questions out here? Cool. Then I will move on. Next is managing the comment for weekly learnings. So we've understood what weekly milestones are. Now we move to weekly learnings. So at the start of the coding period, the contributor, this is now your job. Other comment is handled by the mentor. They have the sole authority over that comment. They're the ones who will be taking stuff off, along with, of course, after looping you in. Now this is your job. At the start of the coding period, you need to initiate an issue ticket. You need to initiate a comment on your issue ticket to capture weekly learnings. मैंने इस week में क्या सीखा है. Again, formats will be shared. shared with you. Don't worry about that. At the end of every week, you need to basically edit that comment and add that week's learning. Ki, I have learned so and so, so and so, so and so, so and so this week. If you've sort of created a tech architecture diagram of some new system that has to be developed, you can add that diagram out here as an image. You can do all of that. So these learnings can be anything that's a new skill, new knowledge created, new algorithms, anything. Just so that you have documentation of what you have actually learned throughout this project. You can, of course, one thing is noting it down in your notebook. A second thing is having it out here, because once you have it out here, just from a perspective of also building your resume, based on these comments, we're going to be building a full documentation of the DMP. So your weekly learnings will be documented on that documentation system, and anyone who wants to sort of check out your profile and what you've sort of done in the DMP, you can just link your part of that documentation system out there. So it becomes a clear resume sort of building thing that you can use later on. So I would suggest take this very seriously and add your learnings honestly and honestly out here. Next, we go to how to submit a valid pull request. We've understood your weekly milestones, how to manage those. We've also understood your weekly learnings, weekly milestones managed by your mentor, weekly learnings managed by you. Now we come to the actual crux of everything out here in, of course, in any open source or any coding project for that matter, pull requests, right? That is the place where you're actually submitting your code to your mentor. Sure, you can have calls with them. You can maybe go through a few things visually on screen, share your screen and run through a few lines of code with them. But the actual review of your code will happen through your pull request, right? So the question now is, how do we capture that pull request? How does our system capture that pull request, right? We're saying every week you need to submit a pull request. How does our system capture that pull request and show that you had week on week progress in submitting pull requests? So the way to sort of do that would be in the same repository as your issue ticket, raise the pull request, and the format is very simple. In square brackets at the start, put your issue number. So if you go to your issue ticket, on the top, you'll have your title. Some folks have also added DMP 2024, some haven't, doesn't matter. You'll have the title. And at the end of the title, you will have this issue ticket number, right? For that repository. This means it's a 15 ticket in that repository. It's as simple as that, but it's essentially the issue ticket number for that particular ticket. You put that in these square brackets in your PR. That's it. That's all it needs to sort of pull. You put that number in the square brackets, you put in the title, you put a dash, and then you put in the title of your PR, whatever your PR is sort of titled. If you sort of put in 5 lines of code that cleans up a bug, say bug fixing, something like that, whatever the title is. Just again, reiterating, only important thing out here is that A, you raise your PR in the same repository as your issue ticket, and B, at the start of your PR, you have this square brackets with the issue ticket number. That's it. Other than that, again, just reiterating, raise PRs at least once a week and nudge your mentor to review your PR when you've sort of raised one. Sorry, any questions here? So I'll just answer, before that, I'll also answer questions in the chat. First is Janesh Kapoor's, which is, are there 2 different mentors for each contributor, one from the organization and one from C4GT? No, Janesh. The mentor is mostly always from the organization only. There are a couple of cases where we have this concept for angel mentors, where we have people from the ecosystem, the C4GT ecosystem, who have tech experience and have come in and are mentoring for projects that are where the organization doesn't have the tech capacity to do so, but the mentor is from that organization. Then we come to Gaurav, which says, when you say comment on ticket, that means comment just below the project repository, right? Not project repository, Joe. Like literally how we had listed it in the DMP GitHub table for you to sort of select your project, right? Go to that issue ticket and just under that issue ticket, add your comment. As simple as that. Cool. there's a problem with raising PR in the same repo with me, as I have to push the code to a different repo advised by the organization. So just after this call, just let me know which organization you're working with. We can sort of get on call with them and initiate an issue ticket. Guys, Gaurav, would you please mute yourself? Yeah, is there a there's a problem with raising the PR in the same repo with you, right, Karthike? So just let me know about this after this call. We'll speak with the organization. We'll generate a new issue ticket in the actual repository your organization wants you to sort of raise PRs in, and then we'll put that in our database as the ticket we need to pull the data from. So just remind me after that. Basically, tell me your organization and tell me what the exact problem is, and we can sort of figure it out. Do you need to create a new PR every time, or do we need to commit the changes to the same PR? You need to submit a new pull request every time you're sort of putting code in, right? Not sure I understand this question. PR is a pull request, so whenever you make a change in a code base, you're submitting a pull request to sort of to the person who's maintaining the code base. So you're technically submitting a new PR every time. As me and Menta decided to create a new repo, we are developing the whole framework from scratch. Cool. Even if you're doing that, let me know about this, Prashant. We can create that issue ticket in that particular repo, and we'll change it in our database. So we'll pull the information from that new repo. That's not a problem. We just have to change the issue ticket in our this thing. Okay, Karthike, yeah. So I've answered this multiple times. What I'm essentially trying to say is, don't worry. If your organization is asking you to create PRs in a new repo which doesn't have the issue ticket, not a problem. Let me know over text. I'll sort of get in contact with the organization. Easy way out is just simply creating a new issue ticket in the repo that you actually have to create PRs in. And that new issue ticket is where we'll sort of pull our information from. We just need a link to the issue ticket to pull information. That's all we need. So it's not a problem. Cool. Any other questions? Perfect. So again, anyone who has issues with having to sort of use a different repo than the issue ticket there, that the issue ticket that was listed on GitHub with us, just let me know, post these sessions. Maybe sometime next week we can take it up when you actually have to start raising PRs. We'll just change the link of the issue ticket in our backend database. Not a problem. Okay, we are running a little behind. We actually had a break after the programming mindset, but essentially we'll now sort of have a takeaway and agenda for this day. So I'm just going to stop sharing. Let's sort of, now we've had this entire bootcamp, let's sort of just spend 10 minutes collecting our thoughts. What do you feel has been your key takeaway from today? List maybe 1 or 2 key takeaways you have from today. And how are you feeling about the coding period? What are you feeling? Are you feeling nervous? Are you feeling excited? You can put it in the chat. You can also raise your hand and share, because trust me, if you're feeling a certain way, or if you have a certain takeaway and you feel like it's not valid, or you feel like it's stupid, I can assure you there are 15 other people out there who feel or have the same exact takeaway as you. So, okay. Gaurav said, can we have this PPT and recorded meet? Yeah, Gaurav, we'll send it over. Don't worry about this. Yeah, guys. So mixed feelings. Gaurav says nervous and excited. So do you want to expand on that, Gaurav? What is making you nervous? What is making you excited? Which part of DMP is making you nervous and excited? Excited, so let's not tackle. I'm like, great that you're feeling excited. What's making you nervous? Let's try sort of understanding that and breaking that down.
Excitement itself.
Acha. Okay, just the excitement to get started is making you nervous. That's fair. And being nervous is a valid sort of feeling out here, because this is a pretty sort of big deal that you're part of. You're building, you're solving solutions at scale. This is, for a lot of you, this might be the first time you're sort of working on a project at this sort of scale. So very okay to feel nervous, but don't worry about it. The C4GD team is always here to support you, and your mentor is also there to guide you. So any help you require, feel free to reach out to me. nervous because I haven't worked on such a production grade code. So, good point, right? That's not the expectation that you'll jump in and suddenly a production grade ready code. We're having a session tomorrow on coding best practices, and the expectation is that you'll sort of have your learnings from that. You'll sort of speak to your mentor, and your mentor will also constantly give you feedback. You might have a tough bedding in period for a few weeks. Maybe your first 2 to 3 weeks might be a little hard on the program because every time you submit a PR or you submit some code, your mentor will be like, rework this. This is not good. This doesn't follow certain code guidelines, and you'll have to rework it a few times. You'll have to put in that elbow grease. But just think about it. At the end of this 3 months, you will be absolutely and utterly ready to sort of jump into the job market and run riot out there. You will be, as someone who's done a 3 month sort of internship as part of DMP, you'll be absolutely ready for a job. You'll in fact be writing code at a much higher level than a lot of people do in their first few years at a job. So I think it's a great opportunity. Any other sort of takeaways or feelings, guys? Akash says this is a great learning and solution engineering experience. Yeah, agreed with you, Akash. Pratap says, excited to create an impact with learning alongside mentorship from the brightest minds. That's good to hear, Pratap. Yeah. Shivan says, very practical takeaways to make small PRs and keep updating the CMS. Very important, guys. Small PRs, update the CMS. Great takeaway, Shivansh. And implement good problem solving techniques. Yeah, I think, I personally really loved Karan's session also because it made it real for us. We sort of actually had a problem solving session on a sort of ticket. So I would also sort of ask you to go one step further and perform that activity in real time. Have a conversation with yourself, much like you had a group conversation when you're breaking down a problem. Have an active conversation with yourself, like ask yourself questions and sort of break down problems. For me, that works wonderfully. So in case anyone else wants to implement that technique, go ahead with that. Kushagra says, would really love to connect with so many experienced people and learn and grow. So we are sort of exploring this. We've not sort of defined the contours of this, but we're sort of thinking of having an open house or a active learning experience every sort of week or 2 weeks where we call in experts from the industry to hold sessions on specific sort of things. So today we actually had Rahul doing system design. We also have another folk called Ravi, who's from Beacon, who's also a master at system design. So maybe we could have another session on system design with Ravi. We have other folks who sort of have a lot of experience in a lot of different places. Ankit says, I am very thoughtful person and daily life challenge in this project. Ankit, I'm not sure I know what you mean, but if you want to unmute and explain, go ahead. Prakhar says, let's go to make this world a better place. 100%, that's the objective of C4GT. And does C4GT organize any offline meetups? So we're exploring that. C4GT is a community program, does have offline meetups. But when it comes to DMP specifically, we've not sort of done anything yet. The only offline sort of meetup we want to have for everyone is the DPG dialogues, which is actually what Gaurav is asking at the end of the program, offline get together of this community. Yeah, so we have successful contributors meet together at DPG dialogues, which is that year-end celebration of success, right? Where we have masters from the ecosystem. I would say, like last year we had Mr. Pramod Verma, who's the chief architect of Aadhaar, who sort of had like a huge part to play in the DPG dialogue. So we have masters from the ecosystem coming in, and it's a great chance for all of you to sort of be there and interact with them. So that's added motivation to do well in the coding period. Devash is saying, takeaways, target 100% of weekly milestones, target at least 95% of midterm milestone, raise small and optimistic PRs. Yes, yeah, perfect. That's a great takeaway, Devash. How do you feel? Super excited. The problem statement is very rare and intellectual. Cool, that's great. Cool, guys. We won't have any more sort of takeaways. Let's just
like I want to ask a quick question. Like ये जो हमारे weekly milestones होंगे, ये like कैसे decide कैसे कर रहे होंगे हम, like जो project है उसके ऊपर.
तो mentor के साथ you have to decide your weekly milestones with your mentor, right?
Okay.
आपके mentor एक industry professional है. When you're coding, कोई blindly ऐसे नहीं करता है ना कि यार आज today I wake up, आज I feel like doing this. tomorrow I feel like doing this. ऐसे project कभी खत्म तो नहीं होता है. You need to have a clear and defined plan of how to sort of finish that project. कि 3 महीने का project है आपका, उसके लिए हर महीने मुझे क्या करना है, कि पहले महीने में ये करना है, दूसरे महीने में ये करना है, तीसरे महीने में ये करना है. ठीक है, वो आपने डिफाइन कर लिया. वो थोड़े ऊपर ऊपर के लेवल से, मतलब you don't get into all the detail out there. Now you're in your first month. आप आपके पहले महीने में हो. अब वो पहला महीना का जो आपने एक दो सॉर्ट ऑफ लार्जर माइलस्टोन्स डिफाइन किए थे, आपको वो अब अचीव करने के लिए पूरे प्रोग्राम का गोल नहीं, वो माइलस्टोन्स जो आपने डिफाइन किए थे उस महीने के लिए, उस माइलस्टोन्स को रीच करने के लिए आपको वीकली लेवल पे क्या करना पड़ेगा. सो at a weekly level, then you define milestones at the start of every month, and those are the milestones that need to be ticked off at the end of every week. So what we're essentially saying is that at the end of every week, if you've ticked off all the milestones, in theory you've finished the milestones for that month, and if at the end of 3 months you've finished all 3 months milestones, you've finished your project. Does that make sense?
Got it.
Yeah. In the proposal itself, I've broken down things in weeks and even days. So that'd be a good roadmap to follow. Yeah, Ajit. So that was a good starting point to see if you have that planning sort of itch or bone in you to sort of be able to break down a complex problem. And you could sort of take that plan and refine it with your mentor and go ahead with that. Okay, guys. Any other questions? Are we going to receive merch? If so, till when? Ayush, sorry, that's a direct message. I read it out loud. But yes, Ayush, you will be receiving goodies. I think all of you sort of got an inkling of that when we asked for your t-shirt size. So कोई नहीं यार, मिल जाएंगे. As for when, let me just sort of get back to you on that. We're sort of working it out with the vendor. Divij, yeah, we'll send a recording. Okay, cool. Just let's do one last thing, 2 minutes. I'll just flash tomorrow's agenda in front of you. So we can then, you have an idea of what is being covered tomorrow, and then we can sort of drop off and reconvene tomorrow. So just give me a second. Yep, cool. Is my screen visible? Couple of thumbs up would be nice out here. Cool, got it. Yeah. I'm assuming these hands are raised for not questions and that my screen is visible, right? That's my assumption. I'm going ahead with that. So कल का agenda यही है कि we start with just a quick check-in. We sort of do a couple of icebreakers, sort of set the tempo for the rest of the day, and also sort of have one quick look back at today if we have time. Then we have a session on project planning. The whole part of taking that 3-month-long project, breaking it down into monthly milestones, and then breaking that down into weekly milestones. The theory behind that, rather, I would say, is something we would understand in project planning. How do you even tackle such a large scale problem into something that you can achieve on a day-to-day basis? So that is something that we tackled out here. Then we have a quick Git recap. So we've sort of sent you resources. We had a session by Chakshu, a session by Karan, and a session by Shruti. Shruti's session is on Git. Again, Karan's session, he took a similar session last year, but this time we actually had a example driven one. So I would suggest for tomorrow, if nothing else, at least sort of watch Shruti's session on Git best practices, because very important. Assumption is that all of you sort of know Git coming in, because utna to level chahiye hoga. But if you don't, if you feel they're lacking somewhere out there, watch Shruti's session 100%. We've sent it over email. In case somehow that email has gone into spam, kabhi hota hai when you BCC, just text me. I'll send you that link again anyway. So we just have a quick recap of that session with Vedant. Vedant is our sort of dev relations guy on this project. Then we have a break. Again, could be someone's favorite part of the day. Who knows? Shouldn't be. Ideally, shouldn't be. You're actually learning some really cool stuff. I would love to learn this stuff when I was in college. But yeah, then we go to coding best practices. Again, very, very important session. You need to sort of know how to exactly code at an industry level standard before going into these next 3 months. So coding best practices. Then we have visualizing success for the C4GT journey. We have Rahul sort of coming back. So it's great. It's a good sort of bookend. We had him to start. Now we have him to end. And he'll sort of talk about what you need to sort of, what success even means for a C4GT journey and even beyond that. हाँ, 1 लाख मिल जाएगा, stipend मिल जाएगा. That is part of the success. But एक्चुअल इम्पैक्ट जो क्रिएट हो रहा है आपके पर्सनल प्रोफेशनल ग्रोथ में और दुनिया में, that is something that we can sort of visualize with Rahul out there. And just a quick session on takeaways. So just a quick sort of round of which session everyone's excited for tomorrow. Just raise your hand and sort of don't even raise your hand, unmute or bolo. Bolo, like which session? I'm not asking are you excited about tomorrow, I'm asking which session you're excited about. Go ahead and just unmute and say.
Like I'm particularly excited for the coding best practices because like I haven't contributed. I only have made some like mini projects. I haven't worked on something that is a kind of production grade, and I really like the idea that the thing that I'll make will be robust because अभी तक जितना भी मैंने किया है, it is somewhere not robust because like I didn't got enough chance to test with a larger audience, but I feel like इस वाले program में I'll get a chance to make some robust thing that will be used by millions of people out there.
ठीक है, good to know, Gaurav. Yeah, and Chakshu will be taking coding best practices. He's one of the smartest coders I've ever sort of seen, so it'd be great experience for him. Yeah, Ankit, you have your hand up, or anyone else just sort of unmute. We'll take maybe 2 or 3 more, and then we'll sort of get this to an end.
Hi. So I was excited about visualizing success for C4 GT journey from tomorrow's agenda. So I think this would be something really interesting, and we could learn a lot from this.
Yeah, 100%. And I think Rahul is one of the most approachable people at such a high level I've ever met. Like normally, when people reach that high up in terms of an organization, in terms of what their status in an ecosystem is, they become slightly less accessible to everyone because they have a lot on their plate, less time and stuff. But Rahul is so into making sure that young folks like you have the best sort of platform to create impact in the world. So I would say fully leverage that session to ask as many questions you want to Rahul and sort of get any insights from him. Okay, a last one and then we can quit.
Hi. Actually, I have seen the content that you provided through the email, and that was really helpful. Is there any chance we can get the slides of that content? Because there were some coding practices, some resources I was not able to get there. So if
Cool.
there is a
I'll ask. Mostly we should have those slides. If in case we don't, I'll ask Chakshu to sort of share those resources. I mean, I'm sure he knows them. So
Yeah, I think it would be a better idea to drop a link on the same video's description so that we don't have to search a lot.
yeah. So all of these questions that are coming up, right? Just sort of ping it on the group. We'll sort of collate exactly what you all want, what you all need for success. We'll send it over. Not a problem. ठीक है. Cool. Any last sort of thoughts? Okay. Then we can call it quits. Just give me a second. Yeah. So thanks so much, guys. Day 1 of your boot camp is over. Hope to see you all tomorrow. Little more energized, little more sort of present and there to sort of take in all that information that's being thrown your way. We know it's a little content dense. Today we ran a little late, so we didn't get to give you a break at the right time. Ideally, approximately 1.5 hours in to 2 hours in is the max a person can concentrate, but we'll try giving you a break at the right time tomorrow. Perfect. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.